Well, good rising, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee Talk with me, Karen B. I have the wrong date. Sorry. Oopsala. Today is Moonday, August 5th. Right? Another fine moon day. And the moon is new moon. We're waxing crescent. All right, just coming out of the new moon phase. To be honest, I haven't been paying attention. I just had so much stuff I gotta do. So. But the moon just keeps on doing her thing. Hot mess. Not that much of a mess. Anyway, welcome. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to be putting makeup on, I think, in the very beginning of this, because I didn't do it before. And, oh well. I'm just going to do it right here, right now. Right here, right now. I actually haven't been doing this. I've stopped for a while. And I just kind of got over it. But today I kind of want to do it again. So I'm going to do it. So anyway, I don't know what happened, but when I set up my stream today, what do you call it? For whatever reason, my stream was set to unlisted. And I don't know why, I don't know why it was set to unlisted, but it was. So there was no half-hour warning. There was no alert. Well, I guess you guys got a notification when I finally made it public, but YouTube's a butthole, man. They're always screwing me up. Killing my streams. Unsubbing people from my channel. Love all your hot mess. Thanks, Cammy. Let's see. I hit go live on Rockfin. Yes, I did. Hello, Raised by Gypsies. Good day. And also live on Rumble. So, there you go. I don't see anybody chatting over there yet. But there you are. But we're live. Yeah, Brian, Dose of Reality, Zulu 1, Billingtano, MS. How are you doing? I'm doing good. How are you? Edwin Messenger, Mojo Shop, Zulu 1 again, Boston Ray, Sue Finelli, Sarah G. You always double shirts because YouTube's likes to hide shit. Dude, they literally had my stream set to unlisted. That's messed up, yo. Messed up. What do I want to do here? Let's just go simple. We'll just go simple, neutral. Yeah, Sue Finelli, good to see you always. Billingtano. Got notified. Okay, that's cool. Hello, Gregory May. Hope you're well. Carl, FE Nation, good to see you. Ollie Rendon. Aisling717, Spicy Sarah. Dr. E. Vales. Mr. Cut Folks, thank you for the compliment. Didn't hear back from you yesterday. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at a text. Assholes. Conspiracy music guru. Hey, CMG, censorship is really starting to piss you off? Bro. Dude, it's so bad. Memorial Gardens High. It's so bad. And then people try to tell us that flat earthers don't get censored. Bullshit. Bullshit. We are the most censored. I don't care what anybody says. The algorithms bury us. Like, they look for us. And then once they find you, that's it, you're tagged. You know? The algorithms are all gonna bury you. They got me on Twitter. Or X or whatever. They found me and banned me. Buried me there, buried me on Facebook, buried me on YouTube. I mean, those are the main three, right? The biggest platforms. It's so bad. Matrix 1, good to see you. Yeah. I mean, really. It's like... Yeah. Yeah. They censor certain things and they push other things that are misdirections. Of course, that's just my opinion. And people get mad at me for having those opinions about certain subject matter. But man, that's just what it is. That's what it is. In my opinion. In my humble opinion. Okay? Don't hate me. Don't hate me. You know, it's just they don't want you really figuring shit out. Especially me, like before I do every year, right before I do an event, like right now. I mean, I haven't gotten a strike, probably because I've kind of figured out how to not get a strike for now. On PoopTube. But they've been unsubbing people from my channel like crazy. Like crazy. So, there's that. You know, they'll just figure out other ways to get you. Even if they don't give you a strike, it's like they just hide you. They have the AI just bury you into oblivion so nobody can find you. There's never any new things that come to your channel. New people won't come to your channel or find your content. You know? And then what sucks too is like, they'll psych you out. Like, I started getting new subscribers and stuff for a little while, right? Like right after Flatoberfest. Oddly enough. And then I go, oh, cool, I'm getting some subscribers back. And then come time to like start promoting another event. And I started losing subscribers again. So, it's like they really do mess with you. And it messes with my head. It makes me makes me want to quit. You know? Because it's like, how am I supposed to compete with freaking an inhuman algorithm, inhuman AI being used against me? You know, how do you compete with that? Although I will say, I mean, we're doing it to an extent. We are doing it to an extent. We are, you know, figuring out, because, I mean, let's face it, we all know that AI is never going to be as smart as an actual human. It will fake it. It will make you think that it is. It can have the appearance of it, but at the end of the day, it's not a human. It doesn't have the ability to think and reason like a human. It's got a series of pre-installed scenarios inside of it, and then it has to quickly calculate which one of those scenarios or which one of those answers best fits the situation. You know, at the end of the day, it's not a human. It doesn't understand sarcasm. It doesn't understand human inflection or tone or you know, there's certain things that make us human that you just can't program into AI. They'll try, and some dumbass people will probably fall for it and think that it's a human, but at the end of the day, you can't replace humans. Sod Google. It's their only effective weapon against truth. Yes, Carrie. My website looks like it's been blacklisted. I used to be on page 1 at the top when searching Conspiracy Music Guru. Now I'm on page 3 for no apparent reason. Really? Let me check. On Google? Let's test it right now. Let's see on Google. Conspiracy Music Guru. Okay, it's auto-filling for me. Apple Music is the first website. Shazam, Billboard. Well, it's not your website, that's for sure. Is not the first thing that's coming up. Let's see. When does it give me conspiracymusicguru.com? Here we go, page 2. For me, you're on page 2. That's dirty. First thing is Apple. The Apple, let's see where that takes us. musicapp.apple.com. Yeah, it goes to the Apple website, but it takes to your content, so that's good, but still, that's not your website. Shazam. Hi, Sharif. Looking to make a move to Spartanburg area from Fort Lauderdale. Hopefully by the conference date. Yeah. That would be awesome. Good morning, guys. I never get notifications for this show. Hey, Tinfoil. Who's behind Tinfoil? Is that Rico or Lowry? Sometimes it's Rico and sometimes it's Lowry. Or I'll say hi, or, I don't know who it is. Tone, resonance, and everything change the way you say it. It changes meanings with so many sentences. CMG started Shazam the movie now. Yeah. So, anyway, here, I'm almost done, you guys. So anyway, this past Saturday, I was in Jaren's VIP group. I joined his chat to talk to his VIP group on Saturday, and it was actually a pleasant little offline chat group that we had, and it was cool because people were curious. People asked about Bigfoot. I got to talk about Bigfoot, which I hardly ever do. I guess I could force Bigfoot on you here most of the time, but I don't know. I just don't. Mostly because, I can't prove that Bigfoot's real. And I, am very well aware that I can't prove it. But it is a good subject. It's one of my favorite subjects. It was what I was into before I got into Flat Earth. And I think there's something to be learned there about this realm from those creatures. How this place really works, and sort of give you a clue into some of the unseen parts. Because what is that? There's that quote by Tesla that says, you know, if scientists took as much time to study the unseen as they do to study the seen, then they would advance dramatically, right? In their understanding of this realm. So it's kind of like that type of deal there. Hi, Chicago artist. Ever seen CMG and Sinbad in the same place at the same time? Psyop within a psyop. Hello. Were you on the other platform saying hi and I didn't say hi back? Leo Slayer. Makeup is for clowns, Karen. You don't need that. Oh, okay. You're right, I don't need it. Nobody needs it. But sometimes I like it. Did you guys know that they say that makeup is a Nephilim invention? Because they had different features from humans, and so they would use makeup to make themselves look, allegedly, to make themselves look like a human, so they could hide amongst them. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's interesting. Let's hear about Bigfoot. Sometimes I want to feel pretty, says Zulu One. That's hilarious. Sometimes I want to feel pretty. Yeah. I hate when that happens. Touched my eyelid with the mascara and then it puts a big black blob on your eyelid. Alright, there, I'm done. Sorry. Larry Mattia, thank you, old guard F ears. Grateful to have been able to navigate AFI prior to the algorithms. Yeah, man. The Nephilim looked like clowns. Who knows what they look like? Who knows? You know, so anyway, why I started bringing up that I was on that chat with Jaren's people was because somebody was asking about giants, and then we never really got into that discussion. So then afterwards, or yesterday, I started looking up stuff about giants. Because I know people get all upset at me because I say I don't agree that there were giant trees, or at least not more giant than we already know about, like the giant sequoias. That's a giant tree to me, and we still have those. But like where they say mountains were trees, I don't agree with that, and I know people get all upset. That's just my opinion, man. Okay, I just don't agree with that. But I'm not against giant beings because, well, there's actually evidence for that. And there's ancient texts that talk about it, like in real world terms, and recent stuff, recent findings too. So the subject of giant humans is actually pretty interesting. So I was looking into that, and I found, and so I went to, one thing I like to do when I start looking into stuff is, and to get leads to go look at other places, is to come to this, it's like the Library of Congress chronicling America. So it's basically like a archive of old newspapers. America's historic newspaper pages from 1756 to 1693, whatever, right? And then there's another one for 1690 to present, published between 1690 to present. Anyway, it's one of these newspaper archives, and it's just interesting. So this one goes up to 1963. I'm not really looking for anything newer than that anyway, because most of this stuff is sort of, they don't really report on it have new reports about this stuff anywhere. They're much better about hiding stuff than they used to be. Hi, Lord Racer, Karen, Bigfoot, yes. Or we could do Bigfoot talk too, but I was looking at giant humans. But I wonder too if the giant human skeletons couldn't be Bigfoot skeletons, because we don't look at them. But I guess we would have to see the proportions of it and see how it all worked out. I mean, I don't know that they would even, who knows what it is. In my prior life, I used to clear mascara because of microscope work. It was, yeah. The book archive is good. So anyway, in this particular, I did a search called Giant Skeleton Found, because that seems to be the wording that they use when they report about finding these skeletons, right? These giant skeletons. And I found it really interesting, because I've searched for other subjects in this archive a lot. And one thing I've noticed is that a lot of times there'll be repeated articles, right? Like, so even back then, when all these different places had their publications, they would share stories between publications, right? There would be the same story that gets run across multiple publications across the country, right? So a lot of times, you'll search for stuff, and there will be repeats, like, especially like for searching the flat earth subject. Okay, I've searched the flat earth subject in here and on all that stuff. And most of the stuff that is flat earth is a repeat. Most of them are repeat stories, right? There's not a lot of individual stories. However, I was surprised when I searched Giant Skeleton Found. I assumed that most of these stories would be repeat stories, but actually, and there are some repeats, but there's actually a lot of one-offs, a lot of individual ones. And you know what's so weird is there's a lot of these little newspaper archives where it's something so simple, like this one I wanted to show. Was it this one that was like that? No. Where it's like just the tiniest little nondescript blurb about a giant skeleton found. Like, it's just thrown in there like an afterthought, as if nobody really cares, right? Let me see which one. I might have already had it open. Not that one. That's an old one. Here, like this one. So this is a thing from the Oxford Democrat, and this is May 15th, 1883. Now, before this, there's a couple of there's a bunch of articles that are in the late 1870s that show up, but they're the same story. It's a repeat story that shows up. Like the first 5 are a repeat. And then there's this. Then the next story is this. It's just this. It's literally one line. Skeletons of giants have been found in a North Carolina mound. And that's it. That's it. And I was like, and there's a few of them that are like this, where it's literally 1 or 2 sentences and it says, giant skeletons found in such and such place. And that's it. There's no detail. There's no measurements. There's no who found it. There's like not even really a detail about the location. It's like they're just throwing it in there. Oh yeah, by the way, giant skeletons were found in a mound. Isn't that weird? I thought that was so weird. We have tiny feet, midgets. There's got to be a Bigfoot gang somewhere. Yeah. The one I've seen is called the Highland Wildman, 7'8" ginger hair from head to toe. Yeah. Toronosuke, Ito, Grand Rising. Yeah. During lockdown, we went fishing. Had been empty for a few months. Roads, memory was about 8. What? Did you see a Bigfoot? Or you think you saw a Bigfoot? Is that what you're talking about? They are told to destroy in many cases because not matching history lessons. Well, it's interesting. Okay, so here's one I found. 1885. What was the old one? Here we go, 1860. So here's one, June 23rd, 1860. From the Emporia News, which is from Kansas. There were giants in those days. The theory that humanity of the antediluvian period, which is pre-flood, existed in forms which could now be considered colossal, has found many adherents among scientific men. A fossil skeleton of enormous size, recently discovered near Abbeville in France, was regarded as proof of this theory. A Dr. Fulrat of Berlin has more recently found other remains of some antediluvian giant in the village of Guten, just at the junction of the Rhine and Dussel. The discovery has created quite a flutter among the wise men of Germany, and a commission has been formed for digging in diverse places of the same geological formation as that where the giant skeleton was found. So that's from 1860. But that's it. That's the extent of it. Then it goes on to like what other news of the time. Yeah. But it's very, and at this time they were pushing the globe, trying to make everybody switch over to the globe during this period. There was still a lot of arguing about it back and forth. Certainly there was people writing books, there was Parallax, there was Alexander Gleason right at this time, and they were trying to tell everybody, no, this is not real, the globe's not real, the earth is stationary and flat. So this could have just been, so it's even like, well, how did it even make it in there? But it did, right? They did make it in there, but is this their version of censorship where they report it, but they don't go into detail and they just kind of put it right there, nondescript, in the middle of nowhere, Highland Wildman. Oh yes, there's still plenty of tickets for Flatoberfest. There's lots of 10% off codes. Thanks Bob is a 10% off code. Jeranism is a 10% off code. Witsit Gets It is a 10% off code. Crow 777 Radio CRROW777 radio is a 10% off code. Hi, Jana. Maybe because back then those were normal things. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it was such a big deal back then. And a lot of these things were being found, like when I was looking through the articles, they were found through like farmers plowing the field, right? So here, let's see. But they're all different. So where was it? Where is it on this one? Giant skeleton found. Here we go. So right here, giant skeleton found, unmoved, unseen, and untouched for hundreds of years, or so long a period that it can only be estimated by historians, and hidden in the recesses of a deep cave 25 miles north of Shoshone, Lincoln County in southern Idaho. States a recent Boise report. The place has seldom been visited and is known to but a few, is the skeleton of a giant, 10 feet tall, evidently of prehistoric origin. As corroborate proof, they are now exhibiting the rusty and time-worn barrel of what appears to be an old and ancient make rifle or gun weighing between 25 and 30 pounds, resembling a flintlock rifle, and which they claim was picked up besides the skeleton. The bones will be taken out of the cave at the earliest possible date and carefully packed and forwarded to the Smithsonian Institute. This is actually a common theme in a lot of these articles that talk about the giants. There's a number of them that state, oh, the bones got sent to the Smithsonian Institute. Its appearance is believed by those who have seen the skeleton will result in an invasion of the caves in that section of Idaho by students wishing to seek knowledge of earlier inhabitants of America. The skull of this giant is twice as large as that of the average man. The shape would indicate that the giant had a massive head upon his broad shoulders, and the large limb bones indicated the giant must have been a man of great strength and physical power. The skeleton is very well preserved and was found far back in the chambers of the cave, stretched at full length. Close by was the barrel of a rusty gun, which is of make unknown to those familiar with firearms and considered a genuine trophy by its possessors. No reasonable theory can be advanced by the discoverers as to how the skeleton happened to be in the cave. Those who looked into... Where's the rest of it? Oh, here we go. It's right here. Those who looked into the facts believe that the skeleton represents one of the lost race, probably unknown to historians in this day and age, which occupied the American continent long before the Redskin held the country in its power. So that's pretty interesting article there. Does this one not have what year it is on it? Yeah, but this is like an Idaho paper. Doesn't have a date on it. Darn it. Oh. This is late 1800s, entered April 28th, 1903. So it's shortly after 1900 sometime. Anyway, it's interesting. Karen B, I am trying to gift some memberships, but it won't let me. Oh, well that's awesome. Smithsonian, where the truth goes to die, right? Institute, not institution. Isn't that an ME? Yeah. Probably to appease the few. Hi, Chi-Chi. Yeah, actually, that would be a good term to search in the archives, right, would be, oops, no, I don't want, whatever, I guess it's already opened. Didn't want to open Acrobat. Let's see, giant skeleton 18 feet tall. So here's the next one. Giant skeleton 18 feet tall, July 11th, 1919. Austin, Texas, June 14th. If the report that the fossilized skeleton of a giant 18 feet tall has been found near Seymour, Texas is true, it is the most important ethnological discovery ever made in the world, remarked Dr. J.E. Pierce, professor of anthropology at the University of Texas. It would break all previous records of giants by nearly 10 feet, as the tallest man known to anthropological research was only 8 feet 5 inches in height. The skeleton is in possession of W.J. McKinney, Houston, Texas, oil prospector who found it. Oh, oil prospector, so a rich guy, and has been seen by a number of people who vouch for the truth of the size of the relic of a heretofore unknown race. Mr. McKinney, while making an excavation on the narrow watershed between the Brazos and Wichita rivers, came upon the fossilized skeleton near the surface. So this one says it's fossilized, because there's other articles where if we go through them, you'll see where they weren't fossilized, but the bones, and as soon as the bones touched the atmosphere, they just turned to dust and they just disintegrated, so they weren't preserved. But this one says it's fossilized, so that's different. I estimate that this man weighed from 2,000 to 2,500 pounds. According to my deductions, he lived about 2,800 years ago. The skull is 6 times the size of that of an ordinary man. Mr. McKinney does not explain how he arrived at the figures as to the probable period of the existence of this remarkable man. It is probable that the bones of the giant will be donated to the Smithsonian. Oh, look at here. So now it says institution, which under the direction of Dr. J. Walter Fuchs is now conducting anthropological research in Texas. Smithsonian Institution. So there's that, and that's the end of it. I've heard of some sources that say these large giant bones were turned into the museum, but the Smithsonian Museum didn't show them, but hid them and turned them into dinosaur bones. Well, you know, possibly. Yeah, actually, there's tons of these. They're found all over the place, right? So let me see if I'll find another one here. This is another one. I tried to save the ones that I found that were all unique, right? So here's another one. This is January 11th, 1929. Giant skeletons found in ruins of Nero City, Rome, January 11th. So you'll hear that there's found in Ireland, France, Germany, now Rome, and then all over America, right? So they're like finding these giant bones all over the plain. Peasants work in a field at Montero Tondo near Rome discovered the ruins of a sarcophagus which may turn out to be a relic of a village established for freed slaves in the region of Nero. The ancient tomb was built of local travertine stone, and it contained the skeleton of a giant. Nearby were 2 smaller tombs with skeletons the size of whose jawbones, feet, and hands indicated that the persons buried therein must have been of unusual size. Archaeologists recalled that, besides the village of former slaves, Pliny wrote of a village of Seneca which existed in the same locality. So there's another one. That's Rome. Hey, boy. So, next. What's this one? Okay, here we go. So here's an older one, May 22nd, 1884, a prehistoric city. Professor P.W. Norris, assistant United States ethnologist, has recently discovered the ruins of an ancient city 5 miles in extent in the Conecoha Valley near the city of Charleston. The professor commenced his explorations of the ancient mounds in August last and has just completed them. During the process of the excavation of these mounds, he has collected upwards of 4,000 fine specimens of various articles which he intends to place in the National Museum at Washington. 7 of the mounds which he opened were from 20 to 35 feet in height and from 300 to 540 feet in circumference at the base. He opened altogether 56 mounds in the Conecoha Valley. The articles he procured consisted principally of about 30 specimens of steatite and sandstone pottery and pipes, many lance and arrowheads, hatchets, fish darts, celts, gorgets, hematite iron paint hatchets and paint cups, several hundred pieces of shell money, bone and horn punches used for dressing the flint arrowheads into proper shape, 21 bracelets made of copper, 1 copper breastplate, copper crowns, and many copper heads. All the copper was heavily coated verdigris. In a mound 35 feet high and 545 feet around its base was a vault 12 feet square and 10 feet high, the walls of which had been supported by black walnut timbers. In the center of this vault, lying horizontally on its back, was a giant skeleton 7 feet 6 inches long and measuring 19 inches throughout under the arms. On each wrist were large copper bracelets, 4 of which had been enclosed in cloth or dressed skin. Under the skull was a stone lance head. There was a copper gorget upon the breast with 2 holes in it. This gorget, which was 4 inches square, is regarded as having been a badge of authority. In the right hand was a nematite iron hatchet having 4 inches blade. In the left hand were several lance heads 6 inches in length of flint manufacture. Leaning backwards in a dark coffin which stood somewhat out of perpendicular position was another skeleton in such a position in relation to the first as to let the left hand extend over its head. On this left hand were 2 copper bracelets. In the right hand were a bunch of lance heads similar to those of the giant. In each corner of this vault was a warrior enclosed in his dark coffin and standing nearly erect with a stone hatchet and lances in or near his hands. Nearly 100 various specimens of arms and ornaments were found in this one vault. In mound, the remains of a large-sized warrior was found lying flat on his back with a copper crown covering his head and neck, ornamented with seashell and boneheads. On one side of this warrior lay 5 others with their feet all pointing towards the central warrior. About this skeleton were found various weapons and ornaments. The question occurs, how came these skeletons there, 5 male and 5 female, all evidently buried at the same time with the chief? Could they have been entombed alive? There were 10 cemented double cisterns at the head of each skeleton, all containing water for 30 feet above, and more than that distance around the spot there was hard earth, dry like mortar, which had to be excavated with picks. There is another mound at about 2 miles distance, 25 feet high and 306 feet in circumference. The top of this mound is a small flat plain, 40 feet in diameter. Its top and sides, to a depth of about 2 feet, were covered with the natural soil. This entire remainder of the mound was composed of burned ashes which had all been deposited in dark vessels containing about half a bushel each. About the center of the mound were 2 large skeletons in sitting posture, facing each other and their hands extended, palms upward, towards one another. Resting upon their hands was a curious altar made of stone of about 2 feet in diameter, the concave side up and filled with ashes. On its top was a flat stone cover with 2 holes in it, and having on it the ancient totem marks. Down even with the natural surface of the ground in this mound was found an immense, slightly concave altar, the center of which was filled to about the depth of 6 inches with fine ashes. Around Farther from the center, there were ashes and bits of human bones piled up to the depth of nearly 2 feet. The professor says there cannot be a less doubt that these ashes are cremated remains, human beings. See, that's like that's a super detailed description of something that they found, right? What is this paper? The Daily Bulletin. So if that was found, I mean, did anybody learn about this amazing discovery that was found? Kanakoa Valley. Where's Kanakoa Valley? Is that still a Kanakoa Valley? West Virginia? Kanawha Valley. That's funny that nothing comes up that's called Kanakoa. Kanacoha Valley, near the city of Charleston. I think this was maybe supposed to be in West Virginia. Let's see. Oh, this is titled "Archaeologists Debunk the Myth of Prehistoric Giants in West Virginia." How did they do that? After learning about my series of articles on West Virginia prehistory, worked together to address common misconceptions about giant Native Americans interred in West Virginia's burial mounds. The so-called giants in West Virginia are prevailing myth that the Adena people were a race of giant prehistoric humans based on accounts of large skeletons found during West Virginia mound excavations. She clarified that the giants being described in the myth aren't supernatural in size. They are described as unusually tall individuals who would now be diagnosed with gigantism or acromegaly. Both are rare hormonal disorder. Right, okay. They just happen to have a whole bunch of them, right? It's rare, but they had a whole bunch of them, right? So now they're saying the workmen in the field didn't know that it was measured by workmen in the field, day laborers. Oh, so they don't know how to measure how long something is? Interesting. So that's their explanation, that it was like some rare disease that the whole tribe had, right? Giants would explain the monolithic structures, but I'm not ready to go that far. Well, I think it's partial, because if you look at this whole Old World Order thing that's been going on, if you look at it, there's all kinds of things that you can find now to show that one person or a few people can actually move very large things if they have an understanding of physics and they use other tools to do so, not necessarily cranes. But they used forms of hydraulics back in the day, using water weight and stuff to lift things and put things down. So it's like, we really have to, before we start making assumptions like only a big giant did it, you have to first exhaust the capability of human ingenuity, and you have to go beyond that capability. And there are things that do seem to do that. Like, I'm not saying that they don't, but it's easy. It's really easy, as we've seen, for people to just go straight to, humans couldn't do that, the giants did it, right? But that's not necessarily so all the time. Stupid. I'm so stupid. Hidden Valley, West Virginia. Oh, you know what? I didn't turn the phone on. Do you want to talk about giants here? I forgot to turn on the phone. So now try. 704-666-1776. I'm sorry. I forgot. That was my bad. Me malo. Good logic skills. What did I say? Did I say something really obvious? Thank you for calling Coffee Talk. You're on with Karen B.
Hey, this is Dennis. I hope the air conditioner is not bothering you.
No, you're okay.
All right. Thanks. Hey, I got just one. You're talking about giants. Just one perspective. You may not. I expect perhaps you will not agree with it, but I just wanted to share it because it's a significant interpretation. I think historically, a lot of the entire motivation or reason for interest in this subject stems heavily, if not mostly, from an interpretation of Genesis chapter 6 in the Bible, talking about just before the flood, where it says the sons of God went into
the human women, right?
Yeah, so two interpretations, and I think the predominant interpretation is that the same one that like Dave Murphy has and Jaron has, and that I think it was probably over a year ago, but you had a talk, or they had a talk where they about the Bible interpretation, and I didn't listen to the whole thing, but my impression was that they both had the interpretation, as many do. Perhaps the majority in the flat Earth movement have the interpretation that it was fallen angels or demons when it procreated with human women, and the offspring were giants. Mm-hmm. That used to be my own interpretation or belief. However, I was actually turned on to the major a different interpretation that has historically has a lot of weight. I was actually turned on to it by a flat earther, and I found out at my church he was correct. It's called the Sethite interpretation, and I just wanted to say two things for it. Other than historically, like ancient Christian writers, the majority are in favor of it, like John Chrysostom and others, who were by the way, and not all of them, but John Chrysostom, for instance, he was a flat earther. It's got it in his writings, but his interpretation, and he's in the majority for ancient Christians. It's two things. It's that they say that the sons of God was not talking about angels. The angels is an interpretation, in this view, a false interpretation. Sons of God means men that were godly, And this was before the flood. There were two lines. There were, the descendants of Seth and his brother Cain, and that they had maintained a separation, and that finally, closer to the time of the flood, this separation was no longer maintained, and they began to intermarry with evil people. And that's the interpretation that it's not talking about, from this view, angels mating with, or rather fallen angels mating with women. And I would say two things. The first is that interpretation, it's the one with the more moral and practical aspect for people to use in their lives, because you see, I've seen all the time decent people, and they were going in a good way, and they made a poor choice in who they married, and it significantly ruined their life or made it for the worse. And this interpretation, it lends thought to that. It's something to consider, which way is right and which way is not. Unity's not always good. Sometimes division is right to maintain something so that it's not like, this just comes to mind, like all this, the flat earth movement, if it's perverted with all these, stupid interpretations, like, the Tartarianism or whatever. But if somebody's a family that where they have children, you want them to, for generations, that are godly. You don't want them mixing in with the people of the land. That's not racism. That's maintaining.
It's like self-preservation. It's self-preservation, right? Or a form of
it. Not to throw your heritage to the winds. You get the idea. The other point is, I wanted to say that people disagree with. I think I have to say that's flat out wrong. I mean, physically, angels and demons, which are fallen angels, that were created as angels, they do not have bodies. To say that they can procreate with women, from the Sethite interpretation, it's not possible. They don't have genitals and things. The sex, it doesn't happen, and it never has happened, and it can't. There was, in the Bible, the Sadducees came to Jesus, and he makes it very clear, because they don't believe in the resurrection. They're like materialists, kind of, unlike the Pharisees, who were at least believers. But the Sadducees were saying, like, this woman married married this man, and he died, and then she married his brother, and he died, and so on. In the resurrection, as you say, whose wife is it going to be? And he says, Jesus is like nonsense. Don't you know? In the resurrection, in the second life, people are like angels, not having sex, female and male. There is no procreation, and that the only time that it could be argued that in all of history that invisible being mated with a physical woman was when God the Father went with the Virgin Mary. She's still a virgin by all means, to make God the Son, who's 100% God and 100% man. So basically, that God became man so man could become God. That's the essence of the theology of the traditional Orthodox Church. That's becoming like God, deified. Anyway, I actually talked about this with Dave Murphy at Flatoberfest momentarily, and although I knew we had different beliefs about it, he acknowledged truth. He said historically that is the Christian interpretation. I was like, amen. At least he acknowledged that that's the his history was at least correct. He's not a Christian outwardly, but anyway, that's. I made a post in your Telegram in the Rebellion with a link. It has a brief article about the history of Christian writers who've taken the Sethite interpretation. That's the only thing I've got about that. I won't say anything else. I would just say I was glad to see that you saw my link about this book, The Scorpion King by Scott Ritter. That's a whole different subject, but it's in a nutshell, it's a history of nuclear war policy and treaties, and Americans breaking them from the time of Roosevelt, FDR, all the way up to Trump, and nuclear weapons, and has a lot with the ballistic missiles and stuff with the space age and stuff in the 50s. It's kind of from a disarmament pacifist perspective, and real good books like that. It's very useful to flat earthers because he debunks a lot of the NASA and right wing myths from the 50s and 60s, because they were anti-communist, and the people promoting all the space propaganda were all these anti-communists, and they had lies that are widely acknowledged as lies, like the missile gap that the Soviets were allegedly in the 60s way got ahead of the Americans, which is outright false. But a lot of their books, I noticed, like on satellites and all, they have these errors in them. So it's used books like The Scorpion King, the sophisticated or well-written books from a disarmament pacifist perspective can be used by flat earthers to poke holes in the space age arguments in their history books.
You're changing subjects, Dennis.
Yes.
You're going off into a different subject, and I want to stay on giants.
Forgive me. I'm going like Jim Brewer on you.
All right. Thank you. I will look at your other links, though.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. Bye. That's funny. I don't know why I couldn't hear the ring whenever he called. The only reason I knew he was calling is because I physically had the window in front of my face and I saw it. So I don't know what's up with that. Google and YouTube and all that crap. Oh, by the way, so let me go back. MFT in situ ? That means it's in place. It's in its place. Like the Baalbek stone is it never left the location from which it was cut. So like, if they were able to take that stone and separate it and make that long pillar and cut it, they were able to do that, but then they didn't. It never left the quarry, allegedly. It's called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, right? This thing. So this stone never left the quarry. See, it's still in the quarry here. 1,200 tons. Stone of the Pregnant Woman. Yeah. Oh, no. I don't want to watch your video. Yeah, Stone of the Pregnant Woman. So this thing it's never left the mine. So like, while it is huge and it's kind of crazy, like looking at it, how big it is, how ancient people would have been trying to do this, but they weren't successful. So it is interesting, but it's also, they didn't take it anywhere. Look at this. See, and this is how it used to be. When it was found, it was like buried in sediment, like the earth had started to rebury it or whatever, and then they excavated it out this whole area, because it looks different now, right? And you can see the line on more recent images. where they dug it out. See here? That's the old line. And then you can see they dug out and they excavated it, the mine, to like re-expose it. So you can see where all the rock is here. And does it have its own thing? Stone of the South, Baalbek, Lebanon, is the largest worked monolith on Earth, weighing in at a staggering 1,242 tons. It is heavier than the stone of the pregnant woman, which weighs in at 1,000 tons. That sits on the other side of the road in the quarry. Neither of these stones made it to the main temple of Jupiter, some 900 meters to the northeast, but some 400 and 800-ton stones did make their way to the temple, were raised 20 feet into the air, and were placed with machine-like precision into the foundations of this mighty ancient complex. So, yeah, like that's crazy, right? That's wild. But the bigger ones didn't make it, so that makes you wonder, well, what was the difference there? Why were they doing up to 800 tons and then what's another couple hundred tons? You know? So something's going on there. Let's see. The outline can be seen in these images. It shows the kind of precision we find in ancient Peru and Egypt. The discovery of this new monolith just adds another level of mystery to the situation, as it sits virtually under the stone of the pregnant woman and would have had to have been lifted out after this 1,000-ton block was moved. Yeah. Baalbek is officially a Roman temple that was built on the foundations of a much earlier site. Some of the foundation stones that make up the main platform weigh 800 to 1,000 tons. However, the true origins of this site are shrouded in mystery, but it is known that the Romans called it Heliopolis, with its namesake in Egypt, that interestingly is connected it to geodetically. The name Baal, generally means Lord or God, and the Phoenicians it meant sun. The site sits upon a tell or occupational mound, 1,150 meters above sea level, has been inhabited since the early Bronze Age. So certainly, you know, giants could have been, I mean, this is really old. It also refers to this area as being inhabited by giants. Look at that. Also in the Bible, Baalbek appears under the name Baalat, a town refortified by Israel's King Solomon in 970 BC, confirming both its sanctity to Baal at this early date. So that's interesting, right? That's really interesting. Yeah, Baalbek is crazy, for sure. Azazel was the Watcher teaching mortals to manufacture weapons and armors. Thank you, Carl. Shout out to Carl. Gifting memberships. Appreciate that, sir. He's sleepy and not a Monday being properly. Not even able to get to the moving stage. How did they cut it? Okay, well, I can give you insight into how they cut it. I don't know how they moved it, but like how they cut it. So like, let's see if I can bring up some of these things here. Instagram that I end up looking at. So here, let me mute this tab because sometimes I have ridiculous music. So here, so what they'll do is they will, you know, this is more modern, but there's other ones where they take basically like these steel pins and hammers and they hammer it along a cleave line of the stone, and then they split it, and it just cracks. Let me see if I can find a video of them doing one like that. Like, look at these crazy quarries where they're quarreling huge giant blocks of marble. giant block of marble. That's not cutting it though. I gotta find one where they're cutting giant stone. Okay, so here actually, quarrying stone blocks. They use, oh, look at that. Let me see. How to split large boulders. Here we go. This is it. So right here, they drew a series of holes, right? Or make dents, which you would do with, if now in I know they didn't have power tools back then, but what they would do is you would take a piece of metal and grit and water, and you could, with grit and water, wear in like your initial drill hole into the part of the stone that you want to cleave, right? It would take much longer back then, obviously, but if you search around, you can find plenty of videos where they're drilling holes into granite with copper and various other types of metal, and all they do is take some grit, which is like some sand or some already crushed pieces of stone, smaller piece, grit, and then some water, and with water and grit and pressure and repeated action, you can then drill into these stones. It takes a long time, but that's like the predecessor to having a power drill, okay? Then you have your series of holes right here along where you want to cleave the stone. And then, see these pins here? He's going to take these pins and put them into these holes and hammer them in there. And then it splits the stone. And this is basically the same method that they would use to cleave large stones or granite or anywhere in a quarry, would be like this. This is how they cut it. You just have to know which way the grain of the stone goes. And see how it's split straight down the side right there? Boom, it's apart. So stuff like this. And I had found videos where they did it on giant stones, like big ones where they're standing on it. I wish I could find one right this second. Look, cutting huge rocks in half step by step. See, he's got a power thing, but it's like, you don't always have to do that. You just have to get your initial split right there, right? And then you can just wedge it apart. So here, hand splitting a large granite block. See, he's just cracking it with a steel pin and a hammer. And this same technique works for super large stones, monolithic sized stones. It just takes longer and more energy. I'm not going down the Titan path, it's full retard. I agree with you, MFT. I don't go that big either. I think you start to get really ridiculous in that. I hate it when people say that they're confused about how the pyramids got there. There are wooden columns molded into the pyramids. There is water, sand at their feet. You work smarter, not harder. I agree, Mad Mac. But people don't see, but nobody does that stuff anymore. People don't think like that. They can't even comprehend that sort of mindset. We don't know our histories even beyond 400 years back. Why is there veins running through the... What now? Why is there veins running through the stones, Max? Think about that. Veins? Mineral veins? I mean... Yeah, because they separate out. That marble is spectacular looking. Yeah. How would one go about making metal tools back in the day? It's crazy being so far removed from the creation of things we use daily. But they were able to do it. Actually, one of the fascinating things about that of some of these channels that study stuff like this, like that Land of Chem channel about the pyramids, like they're talking about how they were using different processes, you know, chemicals and stuff to dissolve mineral out of stone, and like ancient miners, you know, which is not outside the realm of possibility. You can also use wooden splints. Once they are hammered in, you wet the wood and the wood expands and cracks the rock. Oh, that's interesting, CMG. I hadn't seen that, but that makes sense. And I definitely believe giants did it. That's why the giant molded a Bigfoot into the wall. Huh? What do you mean? Mold and cast is close to the right answer, but not it. It could be both. Because, and here's the thing, like, people find there's natural cement made in nature. Everything we do is copying nature. So, you know, you guys have to, I mean, doesn't it make sense that people would like witness things happen in nature and then study it and then experiment with it and then figure out what type of minerals and dirt and compounds that they can mix together where they add water and then they create bonds and it makes like a natural cement? I mean, because you can find plenty of things that like that in nature. So why is that like outside of the realm of possibility? Stones have veins. Like what, we gonna ignore that? No. But it's not, just because it doesn't mean it's like a vein, like as if it was a living thing. It's like it's a mineral vein. Like it's like a gold, like when they talk about, oh, I hit a vein, it's because there's been a concentration of that mineral and it has congealed in that space because it was the right condition in whatever, and it happens to run, you know, laterally along the surface in veins. Some of them go deep, you know. It's just a description of the way things form. It doesn't mean like it's an actual vein. Is that what you guys are thinking? Like it's in like an actual vein? Copper is pretty soft compared to steel or bronze. Yes, it is, Billingtano, but I watched a video of a guy who had a copper tube and he put it on top of a piece of granite and he put grit and water and he just sat there turning it, and eventually it started to make a circle like it was cutting a core out of the granite. That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, copper is softer, but it's not outside the realm of possibility of being used to cut stone if you have the other implements, i.e., grit and water. You can't create molds with veins running through them. They didn't move them. You can see. Oh, I see what you're saying, MFT. You're saying that you can't create. Yeah. A lot of them cut. But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can do it though. Quarrying a 15-ton granite rock by hand. See, he's hammering here. He's using a jack. This is where it gets crazy, right? So like, okay, you can split the rock, but do you have a earth mover or an excavator to get it out? Yeah, so then that's where it gets crazy, is how are they then removing them? I don't know, man. It's very interesting. Anyway. So that is an interesting story, that prehistoric city found in Virginia. Whoa, look at that big old crystal. See that big old crystal he just pulled out of the wall? That's amazing. Oh my goodness, that's huge. Huge. Wow. Okay, sorry, I got distracted by the crystals. I'm sorry. The sand was doing the cutting then, more like grinding a hole than drilling it. Yes, Billingtano, exactly. Hey, Mopar man, giant tree roots are veins of quartz and gold. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about people who just say stuff. They just say stuff even though they have no proof for it, like it doesn't even make sense in reality. We already know that petrified tree looks like, okay? And if you find people who are trained to know the difference between naturally formed quartz or a tree that has been agatized or been replaced by quartz mineral, okay? We know how to positively identify petrified wood, so you cannot just make the claim that every random quartz vein is a petrified tree root, because that's just not true. Quartz, first of all, quartz is the most plentiful mineral and plentiful crystal on Earth, okay? It's like one of the most, like quartz and salt, like the most, right? Quartz. And so why do you think that that's a tree root? Just because it sounds cool? Do you even know how gold is made? There's nothing to suggest even that gold has anything to do with trees at all whatsoever. It doesn't even make sense. You see, this is what I'm saying. Like, and if you said that to any person who actually went and spent years of their life out digging for crystals or reading the geology of the land or prospecting, and you said that to them, they would laugh at you because it doesn't make any sense in reality. You guys are just assigning new attributes and properties to materials without any evidence or any proof or anything. Nothing. You're just saying stuff because it sounds cool. And this is what I am against. This is not okay. It's not okay. You know, just because you found out that the earth is flat doesn't mean that you have to reinvent the wheel and start reassigning properties and names and attributes to every single thing on Earth because you found out that you don't live on a globe. You know, geology and natural minerals and stuff is not the same as fake space, because we are actually here on Earth with these minerals. We touch them, we mine them, we use them, we test them. They're in every type of form of electronics, okay? We know how they work. We know what happens if we do certain things to them or if we combine them with other minerals and things, right? This is stuff that we touch and use every day. It isn't like fake space where it's all completely made up. So there's no need to completely dismiss what we know about minerals and metals and other of the building blocks of this realm completely and just give them new attributes without any testing, without any proof, without any experimenting. Like that's backwards. It's not productive. And it is part of why I just can't get down with that stuff. Like, do you guys get it? Why is it okay to just make statements like that? Oh, they were giant trees. Like, you guys don't even know what you're talking about. Has anyone seen the fake new Nazi flat Earth moon map from World War II? No. Crystals grow. Yes, Rock E. Shepherd. Exactly. Crystals grow. We still need to think, discuss, discern, question, be truly skeptical, play it. Yes, exactly. Listen. That reminds me. I want to play a little clip here from a Crow show, and not the whole thing, just a little clip. I hope it's okay. Don't get mad at me. But it's about Michael Hoffman, and he puts into words. It's Michael Hoffman, and he puts into words. He verbalizes exactly my sentiments about what's happened to the quote-unquote truth community.
But it is an adventure, and it is something where, as we explore what other people have closed their minds to, it's deeply gratifying, not in the sense of thrill-seeking or excitement, which I've mentioned in the past has been a real defect of conspiracy theory.
Yes, a real defect of conspiracy theory. You guys are seeking thrills, not truth.
And the people who are connected to it, rather than trying to bring the perpetrators to justice, which is my goal, and also investigate how these different types of mind control gain such firm purchase over the American people. It's seeking a dopamine enhancing thrill.
See, a dopamine enhancing thrill. So rather than looking for actual truth or trying to uncover any information that will increase your actual understanding of the realm, you're just looking for that. Whoa, dude!
That, wow, we're going to look now at what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. Before that, we got a thrill from the Las Vegas shooting.
Now, his examples are different. So, like, oh, we're going to look at giant trees. Oh, we're going to look at old world history, Tartaria, mud flood, cataclysm. There was a reset.
Uvalde thrilled us. Let's contemplate these things for a while and then do nothing about it and move on and seek an ever greater thrill, because we don't feel alive unless we get these jolts of dopamine. We don't.
And seek an ever greater thrill. You seek an ever greater thrill because what? Do you not feel alive unless you're like having your mind blown by some new trendy bullshit? And get more views on YouTube. 1111. Hi, Ted. Space is not completely made up. Karen B. The flat earthers just ignore the whole aerospace industry along with rocket launches and landings. Everyone will know when the firmament departs. Okay, I see. You're right. Space is not fake, but space as they have described it is not true, right? Like, it's unfalsifiable. Who's going to get on a rocket and try to go 85 miles up in the air to prove it or disprove it, right? Like, it's not exactly an easy thing to do, but when we're talking about things here on Earth that are on the same level as us, like within literally within arm's reach to be touched and held, examined, experimented with, used in everyday practice, and then here comes some person who just wants to assign new attributes to it and just say it's something else than what it has been being used at. You know what I mean? It just is ridiculous. It blows my mind how people are just completely able to accept a whole new false paradigm so readily just because it goes against mainstream. Just because it goes against mainstream doesn't mean it's true. Anti-mainstream does not equal truth. Okay? Just saying. So that's why I take a more logical and methodical approach to examining things before I let myself get carried away and start, going down some breadcrumb trail that is ultimately lead you nowhere except to more confusion or another wrong conclusion. Wait till she finds out people are trees. They appear to hit some kind of firmament, looks like water. Well, I mean, it could be. It does seem to be a fluid. It does have fluid appearance, like especially if you look at stars, they look very much like they are shining through some type of weird refractive fluid. Who knows what it is? Morning, evening, afternoon. Hello. So if you're, one of those people who believes in giant trees, well, I'm just not one of those people. Sorry, not sorry. I'm open to evidence for it. I've looked at many, many things over the years. I've looked at all the same stuff that you guys, everybody tries to show me, repeat, the same stuff. I'm sorry, there's no giant trees. Not Titan-sized trees. There's giant trees like giant sequoia trees, or there's large trees, but they're the same large trees that we've always had. And you can't say a mound of sandstone or limestone is a tree, because that just doesn't make sense. And the other thing too, I know you guys like to use it, the idea that, oh, well, it's flat on top. It looks like somebody cut it down. Well, this is a gem called tourmaline. It terminates to a flat top. It's a rock. It's a rock that terminates to a flat top. Here's black tourmaline. Oh, look at that. It terminates to a flat top. That's just the way it grows. It's just the way it settles. Or if they're sedimentary rocks, wouldn't it make sense that they would level off flat, parallel to the realm, to the floor of the realm? And then solidify and create bonds and crystallize with a flat top? I mean, you don't know how it formed. Maybe those things are from the flood. Maybe it's from the flood where these certain different areas had a certain mineral makeup, and they created a bond together inside the flood when it was like a slurry, like creating like a saturated slurry of mineral and sediment. And then as the flood receded, how do you know that those just weren't the formations that were left as a result of the flood? You guys just don't know. You just make assumptions based on a visual similarity. But here's the thing. See, look, here's another little rock. Look at that. It has a flat top. It's all crystally, all different other shapes. But crystals grow in all different shapes. Rocks form in all different shapes. How about this one? Aquamarine also does it right here. Here's aquamarine in with muscovite, and look at the crystals. They stop and they grow. They stop growing with a flat end, in the same way that other crystals stop growing with a terminated end. And then you see like the facets, like quartz, right? Quartz is what you guys are used to seeing. That's what people are most used to seeing, right? When you think of a crystal, it's quartz, right? It terminates like this in a point. But look at this. Look at this. Crystal habit. These are all the different shapes that crystals grow in. Rhombohedron, the flat. Look at all these that have flat sides. A cube is flat. Bladed. Dodecahedron grows in a pyramid. A pyramid shape is a natural crystalline form. So, when you see these pyramidal mountains everywhere, it's probably because it's just a pyramid-shaped rock that formed when the Earth was forming, because it's one of the platonic solids. It is a natural shape and form for things to take in this realm. So that's all it is. Different shapes of crystal. Here, look. Boy, they sure have a lot of straight lines and flat surfaces. That's sure interesting. I'm just saying there's more than one way that things could have formed. And some ways make more than others, make more sense than others. Flood, surely. Yeah. Why disregard any theory since we almost know nothing? I'm pretty sure most understand its theories. Well, no, but they don't say understand its theories. They go around and they state it like it's fact. And then when you say you don't agree, they get all butthurt. like you're and they call like me. This is my experience, okay? So if I say I don't agree that these are giant trees, well, I'm a gatekeeper. I'm blind. I'm ignorant. I haven't done enough research. You know, they want to say I get it. I just get all these ad hominem attacks thrown at me because I don't see what other people see. I'm looking at it from a more logical perspective, taking into account the conjugate geometry and the forces that drive everything in this realm. And they're just like, tree! Looks like a tree! You know, it's very surface level thinking, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Iron and sulfur. Yeah, there's a bunch of things that were pulled out of the La Brea tar pits too. I was reading about that. Rocks are my favorite subject. Me too. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that there's giant trees. And it doesn't mean that tree roots are quartz or gold. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous assumption made from Fantasyland. Fantasyland. Cheers, Flat Earth Andy. Anyway, I totally got off the subject. I was looking at giant stuff. Giants. Giant. I wanted to look into finding giant skeletons found. So yeah. So here's this nondescript sort of giant skeletons of giants found in the North Carolina mound. Okay. So then if I go North Carolina skeleton giant skeleton. Like you would think that each state would be like, this is our state's giant skeleton that we have found. The Encyclopedia of Ancient Giants. See, these all look like fake pictures. I'm interested in this website, Encyclopedia of Giants. But you know, they'll never talk about it. Page does not exist. Oh, come on, buddy. Archaeology World. Let me see if this place has any info. Oh, look at this picture. See, but that's not proof of anything. Giant skeletons of enormous size discovered in New Mexico. New York Times article from 1902. Yeah, this is one that I saw too. Oh, Graham Hancock. Giants. Did giants once roam the earth? It's been in the literature and lore of multiple cultures throughout human history, from the Mayan and the global indigenous populations, the Bible, and more, since what we perceive as the beginning of time. For example, the Bible tells us that when gods were on earth, there were giants. This, when you bring up in conversation, normally brings up, you know, laughter and people giggling and thinking you're joking, yet the Bible is full of references of giants in our history. Yes, it is. Nephilim is referenced in Numbers 13:33 of the Bible. We saw the Nephilim there. We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. More cultures talk about giants. Michael Tellinger next to this giant footprint-looking thing. Apparently in 1883, the Smithsonian, a United States government military-led organization at the time, sent a team of archaeologists to South Charleston Mound. According to the official report, the team discovered a number of giant skeletons ranging from 7 to 9 feet tall. Some of them had compressed or flat head type, which would resemble skeletal characteristics to those found in Egypt and South America. Wisconsin Mound open, skeleton found of a man over 9 feet tall with enormous skull. Maple Creek, Wisconsin. One of 3 recently discovered mounds in this town has been opened. In it was found the skeleton of a man of gigantic size. Bones measured from head to foot over 9 feet and were in a fair state of preservation. The skull was as large as a half-bushel measure. Some finely tempered rods of copper and other relics were lying near the bones. Isn't it funny how I noticed that too, that when they find these giants' bones, a lot of them have copper stuff, copper relics, copper bracelets. The mound from which these relics were taken is 10 feet high and 30 feet long and varies from 6 to 8 feet in width. 2 mounds of lesser size will be excavated soon. New Mexico, giant skeletons found. Los Angeles, California. Owing to the discovery of the remains of a race of giants in Guadalupe, New Mexico, antiquarians and archaeologists are preparing an expedition further to explore that region. This determination is based on the excitement that exists among the people of a scope of country near Mesa Rico, about 200 miles southeast in Las Vegas, where an old burial ground has been discovered that has yielded skeletons of enormous size. You know, and also, I think if they're, and I just had another thought too about like if any of these quote unquote mountains were actually Titan size or giant trees. I mean, look at all the other stuff that they try to show us that they found that was big. Like they don't hide finding, oh, like we found a giant wombat and a giant this and a giant that. Why would they not talk about giant trees if they talk about giant everything else? It seems to me the only thing that they really try to hide are the giant humans. It's the giant humans that they don't want to talk about. Everything else they can wash into some sort of evolution story, right? Or work it into millions and billions of years evolution type story. So I feel like if they were able, if any of these quote unquote mountains were giant trees, that they would use that to their advantage. They would use it as part of their story. Just like when because you can't control the average farmer, going and like plowing the field and coming up with all these bones and stuff. But so, I don't know. The chest of the body had a circumference of 7 feet. The bodies were first discovered by Luciana Quintana. It was on this ranch these specific bodies were found, according to the article. Quintana, who has uncovered many other burial places, expresses the opinion that perhaps thousands of skeletons of a race of giants long extinct will be found. This supposition is based on the traditions handed down from the early Spanish invasion that have detailed knowledge of the existence of a race of giants that inhabited the plains of what is now eastern New Mexico. Indian legends and carvings also in the same section indicate the existence of such a race. Hello, Rose. Yes, they were taught to smelt it around the Great Lakes. So much copper in the lakes. Huh. They talk about giants a lot in Gaia, but I don't trust them. They have some truth, but a lot definitely isn't. Isis is sorry, but they mentioned Flat Earth in a chat during a special event. I bet they lost their shit, MS. The next special event, all speakers have images of the globe. Talked about the globe. Yeah, Gaia hates Flat Earth because they want ancient aliens to be true. Still talking down other people's channels. Whose channel did I mention, Daryl? See, Daryl is a perfect example of somebody who gets butthurt when I express my opinion, and all I'm talking about is the data, and I'm not talking about anybody's channel. Wow, still talking down it, still like super wow, still negative. No, it's not negative. Look, I'm just explaining things from my point of view. Daryl, how come I'm not allowed to explain things from my point of view? Well, how come I'm the only one who gets to talk when because I have a different point of view? than the trendy, groupie people who think everything is a tree. Why am I the only one, Daryl? Don't be a hypocrite. Seriously, I'm really over that bullshit. What about the pre-Genesis 1 theory? The gap theory could explain some things. I don't know about that theory. There's copper mines in Michigan that were mined by Egyptians. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? But you guys see, when I talk about people get butt hurt if I talk about stuff in a different way. Do you miss Strange World? No. I don't. If it were a tree, where's the rest of it? Exactly, Kyle. But I'm the one but I'm being negative and talking other people down. Do you guys think I'm being negative and talking other people down? Or am I explaining why I disagree? Just recently, I saw one of my former favorite hosts, Regina Meredith, interviewing somebody, and she mentions Flat Earth, and they giggle like children. Yeah. Wow, we all can say blessings, I was told, and it is interesting. Thanks for your personal perspective. Thank you. See, it's like, and you guys, I'm sorry that you've allowed yourself to become so married to an idea that you absolutely refuse to hear a different point of view or a different perspective on things. You know, what can I say? You know? Yeah, but Gregory, they're supposed to be my friends. Where is your petrified rock test? What do you mean petrified rock test? That doesn't make sense. On the literal purported trees that people are speaking about. What do you would need to go to those places and do the test, but you won't. They don't do it either, but I'm not making the claim, Daryl. Don't you get it? If you're the one making the claim, it's on you to provide the proof. So I'm asking for the proof by the people who are making the claims that they're giant trees. It is a known thing how to identify petrified wood. It is known. Anybody can go do it. I'm not the one making the claim. The burden of proof lies on the person making the claim. I'm just saying it's a rock like it's already is known to be. I'm just saying the rocks are rocks. The mountains are mountains. Why does it have to be something else? Why does everything have to be some jaw-dropping dopamine excitement hit, even though it has no bearing in reality? You're right, I can't stop the information flow, but I can say my opinion, and you motherfuckers won't let me do it. It's like, why can't I have my opinion? I don't even try to. There is no stopping, and anybody can look at whatever they want to look at. But why am I the one who gets attacked for saying my point of view? By you, Daryl. Why am I the one who gets attacked? How come I'm the only one who's not allowed to express my different point of view without you coming over here and calling me negative and telling me this and I'm doing this and throwing a little hissy fit in the comment section? You claim that they are rocks. Prove it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow. Oh my God, you guys. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? Can somebody explain to me what you do with that? React to stupidity, point it out, mock it, it's good and serves truth. Daryl. You know what, Daryl? I'm trying to be nice. I'm really holding back right now. I'm really holding back. Petrified rocks are rocks. I know, you guys. I got a question. Why has Daryl got a wrench? Because he used to be cool. And then when I started to say that I didn't think, that I didn't believe that all rocks were like petrified, or mountains were a petrified tree. Oh, I know what it was. He got into the melted brick thing. And then he started saying that all mountains were melted brick buildings. And then I went off on that and saying how ridiculous that was. And so that was the initial bad thing, because I didn't agree with that, because that doesn't make sense in reality either, because when you melt stuff, it turns to glass, or depending on what the material is, it turns to glass. Like they don't even go, this is what I'm saying. They claim all mountains are melted brick buildings, but then they don't go and like get a brick building or a pile of bricks even, and then melt it and show where the bricks melt and turn into quartz or turn into sandstone or turn into labradorite or any of the other crystals that we actually do find inside of the mountains that are here, right? They just make claims, and then, oh, if you don't agree, then you're causing division and you didn't do enough research, and hey, go watch another 4-hour video about bricks melting, Karen, because that's what I want to do. Go get a rock and show it to him? Yeah, I don't know. So, okay, well, first of all, Daryl, when you say a mountain is just a mountain, that's not really something that needs to be proven. Carbon-14, Daryl, you gotta stop getting triggered by this shit, dude. You really gotta chill out. I mean, it's stupid. It's stupid. Okay, which one do you want me to go test and prove is a rock to you, Daryl? Which one? That's hilarious. I find this so funny. Hey, go prove it's petrified rock. Go prove it's a rock if it's a rock. Because it doesn't already look like a rock, or isn't it already like a giant crystalline formation, which is a mountain? I mean, all of them are considered rocks. There's different types of rocks. I mean, what do you do with something like that, you guys? Just help me out. Help me out. This rock over here identifies as a building. You don't get to say, oh, it's like carbon dating, but I don't know, or it's up for spinning. We can tell petrified wood. We can not carbon date accurately enough. Yeah, I don't even. And then he throws in like the straw man of carbon-14, like I ever even reference carbon-14 dating of anything. That's not even how you test something. Carbon-14 is supposed to be a test for figuring out the age of something. It doesn't determine what something is. Okay, that's different. And I don't even refer to carbon-14 testing ever. So I don't know why you would even bring that up. That has nothing to do with anything. Yeah, because retards can't get enough. The retards don't like it when I go against it. A spectrometer would be a better tool to prove a rock is a rock than carbon dating. Yes, Billingtano, I know. You don't, and there's other chemical tests and stuff you can do in density tests, but there's no reason to even bring up carbon-14 to do any sort of testing. I say mock. I do mock it, MFT, but then people get mad at me You're being mean. See, it's like damned if I do, damned if I don't. So I just spent the first part explaining why I don't agree with it in a very calm and civil manner with examples of why. And then here comes Daryl. Why are you talking bad about everybody? Why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. Wasn't even talking bad about anybody. All I said was that you can't assign new attributes to known materials without any sort of testing. You guys are going just purely based on a visual similarity, and a visual similarity of one thing to another does not make it so. So, like, look it. Pareidolia in minerals. Well, maybe let me see if I typed crystals, because I typed this before and I got really cool stuff. Okay, well, I'll just search up what I know looks like. Let's see. So calcite rose. Okay, certain minerals will grow into a rose shape and they will look like roses. Look, here's a rose. It's growing in a rose shape. And look, you see how a rose petal grows like this? See, look at here. This is a great one. I used this the other day. Here's a calcite rose, and it grows in the same pattern as a rose. What is this pattern? It is the conjugate geometry of the universe. It's basically like a toroidal shape, and it follows the golden ratio. Right? So by your guys' logic, that's an actual rose. Oh my God. Those are actually roses. It's not just growing in the shape of a rose, right? Which all these minerals do. They'll grow in the shape of things and they'll look like other things. It's called pareidolia. What's another one? Opalite. Opal is a good one. So there's this crystal. It's rhodochrosite. Here we go. People say they'll see a strip of rhodochrosite and they go, bacon! It's bacon! Oh my God, it must be flesh! Because it looks like bacon! But it's not. It's just rhodochrosite. It's not flesh. It's not like an actual petrified slab of bacon. It's just rhodochrosite. It's okay. There's a number of crystals that grow and they form these different striations in them, and then they look like other things. And then people go, oh, it's petrified flesh. It really is. No, it's just pareidolia. Correlation is not causation. Honestly, I haven't done enough digging into this subject. It's a cool idea. What subject? I found a known giant's hand. Come test it, Karen. Daryl, I saw your giant's hand. I think it's just pareidolia. It's not even in proportion. It's just a cool formation that happens to carry the conjugate geometry of the universe, and it's pareidolia. And you're the one making the claim. So if you think it's a giant's hand, then prove it. Yeah, I still don't think it's worth talking about, but you guys won't let it go because you guys are all stuck on stupid. It's dragon blood. Daryl, you're the one making a claim that you have a giant's hand, so you're the one who has to prove it. Don't you understand that? Why do you put it on me? Because you can't prove it. If it's really a giant hand, then go cut it in half and show us where there's the bones in the center of the hand. Show us. But you know why? You can't. Because it's not a giant hand. It's just a concretion that you found that has features on it that look like similar to a hand. That's it. It's very simple. But you guys have completely let your brains fall out of your head, and now you just let yourself believe all kinds of Fantasyland stuff because it sounds cool. I mean, I don't know what to tell you about that, dude. But you're the one who makes the claim, so you have to prove it. Otherwise, it's just a rock. Are you now strawmanning trying to say that we think rocks are roses? No, I'm saying that's the type of logic. I'm comparing that to the type of logic to say, oh, that rock looks like a tree stump. It must be a tree stump. Yeah, I'm pretty tired of it. Should I just, I mean, I want to ignore you, Daryl. It's so hard for me because you're such a nice guy otherwise, but you're so married to this retarded bullshit. I just don't know what to do with that. And and then you get mad at me because I don't go along with it. I can say it nice, I can say it mean. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. You know, if I'm nice about it, I haven't done enough research, and if I'm mean about it, well, then I'm just a bitch. At this point, I really don't give a fuck either way. To be honest with you, I just don't care. Because it's dumb. And I'm never going to go along with it. And you guys are going to have to really step up your game and have some actual evidence. Or just shut the fuck up. A good example is water hemlock and wild carrot. One of the first most poisonous plants, a wild carrot is edible, but they look very similar with subtle differences. Yeah. All of us at birth knew nothing, kind of like empty glass. Everything we learn along the way has been poured into us. What does that mean? There's a cave here that grows crystals. It used to be a river flowing through it. Yeah, the river, the water running through these places is how the crystals are able to grow. And water carries the mineral. Yes, I did, Daryl. Don't tell me I didn't see it. I watched the stream where you put that bullshit on camera. Your claim is BS. Well, I say your claim is BS. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty much over this. And if you don't like it, you can just fuck off, Daryl. Seriously, I'm over it. Just fuck off already. Go away. Take you and your retarded bullshit somewhere else. Because look at it, it's like hijacking the stream is tuned into an argument because Daryl is butthurt that I don't believe in his fantasy stories. And I'm over it! All birds are robots. Punch in Bible's Gap Theory Gen 1-2. Okay, I'm interested. Let's check it out. Bible Gap Theory. What is the gap theory? What's the best one to look at? Gap theory. I don't want to take the first link. Although it might be okay. Well, let's just see. What is the gap theory? Genesis 1:1-2 states, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit was God was hovering over the waters, which I purport is the supersaturated crystal slurry. The gap theory is the view that God created a fully functional earth with all animals, including the dinosaurs, and other creatures we know only from the fossil record. Then the theory goes, something happened to destroy the earth completely, most likely the fall of Satan to earth, so that the planet became without form at this and void. At this point, God started all over again, creating the earth in its paradise form as further described in Genesis. The gap theory, which is distinct from the theistic evolution and the day-age theory, is also called old earth creationism, gap creationism, and the ruin reconstruction theory. so like the fall of Satan to the earth destroyed the earth. The planet came without void at this point and started over again. In young earth creationism, Genesis 1:1 is seen as a summary of the complete chapter 1 in the Hebrew storytelling form. God created the heavens and the earth. Then verse 2 begins a detailed breakdown of the step-by-step process that verse 1 summarizes. However, the statement that the earth was formless and empty and darkness was over the surface of the deep can be puzzling. The idea that God created a useless and shapeless earth is an uncomfortable position for some conservative theologians, and this leads them to the gap theory or an old earth perspective. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Of course, Satan must have fallen before Adam did, otherwise there would have been no temptation in the garden. That makes sense. Young earth creationists say that Satan fell sometime after Genesis 1:31. Gap creationists say that Satan fell between Genesis 1:1 and 2. So like right in the very beginning. One difficulty of the gap theory is that it requires the creation suffered death and destruction before Adam's fall. Romans 5:12 says, "Sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people because all sinned." The gap theory counters by positing two worlds. Satan's sin brought to death the original creation, whatever it was like, and Adam's sin brought to death the recreation, the realm of mankind. Through Adam's sin, evil entered our world and the realm of man was cursed, but rebellion already existed outside the realm of mankind in the spiritual realm since Satan and his angels had already fallen. Well, it's like, wow. Yeah, this is kind of deep, actually, when you start thinking about this stuff. Is it possible to hold to a literal 6-day creation week and still hold to the gap theory? The gap theory does not require evolution to be true since the gap falls before the events of day 1 in Genesis 1:3, and that's why some conservative scholars do not believe the gap theory, although its acceptance has waned since the days of proponents. However, many of those who hold to the gap theory do so in order to reconcile old earth evolutionary theories with the book of Genesis, but it seems to be a strained reconciliation. The plain reading of Genesis 1 does not at all intimate a length of time between the first two verses. No, it doesn't really describe time yet. It just until wherein the sun and the moon are created. God in the heavens of the earth informs us that when he first created earth, it was formless, empty, and dark. It was unfinished and uninhabited. The rest of Genesis 1 relates how God completed the formless, empty, and dark earth by filling it with life, beauty, and goodness. Objections to the gap theory include the idea that if something important had occurred between Genesis 1 and 2, God would have told us so rather than leave us to speculate in ignorance, as God declared his creation to be very good, a statement difficult to square with the theory that evil already existed because of Satan's fall in the gap. Interesting. That's interesting. Oh, was Daryl spiraling in the chat? To say giant trees theory is it retarded or isn't nice or open-minded, just saying, I get it, but I've already said it many times without calling it retarded, and it just keeps going. Thanks for calling Coffee Talk. You're on with Karen B.
Hello, is this Karen?
Yes.
Oh, this is Rock.
Hi, Rock. What's going on?
Oh, well, the gap theory I wanted to add.
Oh, was Daryl spiraling?
Can
you mute your watch page?
Can I do what?
Mute your watch page because I can hear myself in the background.
Yeah, I turned it off.
Okay, thank you. Continue.
Well, in Genesis 1:2, the word, the earth was void. In Greek, you can translate that to mean became void. the earth became void. So I just wanted to add that to you.
In Greek?
Yeah, in Greek, if you look up the word, use the concordance, and you have a place where you can look that word up.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean in the Hebrew. It was the Hebrew. Not
Okay, I was going to say, because the first chapter,
But
I think, was written in Hebrew.
Either way, the Old Testament was written in Greek also.
Well, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, it was first written in Hebrew.
But you can look it up. Yeah, originally it was written in Hebrew, but
that's what I'm saying.
In 250 AD, the people that were living in Greece at the time wanted a whole translation, so that's called the Septuagint, which was written in Greek. So, you can look it up either way. But the word "was" can also be translated "became." They're both time. They're both words that are rooted in time. Was, became. So with that simple correction.
Came to pass, exist, happen, fall out, to be.
Yeah,
so it's used different ways. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. So the theory is what now?
So if the theory is that Satan had already fell before he was in the garden, because he was already fallen when he was in the garden, so we knew, and he was already, how long did it take him to fall? Did he, if the earth was created and then Satan was created at the same time, where did he have time to even go against God? I mean, so we're thinking that Satan inhabited the earth, he fell, so he made it void again. He made it, started all over, and started a new creation, put Adam in the garden to represent him as a trial for Satan, kind of like, because he's on trial now. He's saying, I'm appealing my sentence to be whatever. So he's on trial. God creates man to show, Satan that he's on trial anyway, whatever. So he lived during that time, and I think you got it pretty well. You got some of the, you looked up some of the right things. Anyway, I just wanted to add that word, that word was and became.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all. Anyway, so that would make sense that maybe some of these things that are being uncovered could have existed maybe even pre-man, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And that we're finding evidence of. When he said it was made void, did he destroy everything? No evidence. Maybe there's some. Who knows? I don't know. So it's a mystery.
Yeah, it is a mystery.
I'm willing to say I don't know some things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't say I know everything.
Right? Nobody does.
I used to believe the Bible a certain way. Now I'm reinterpreting it and trying to figure out. You know what I mean? I used to believe in dispensationalism. What if Revelations is over already, and we're kind of like partial preterism now, and that maybe, that part of Revelations has already happened,
mm-hmm.
and that's why you might see, it says that, you had all these earthquakes, you had all these, and maybe Rome was wider spread at the time, and maybe, if we're in Genesis 27 through 9, and we're in Satan's little season to deceive the whole world type thing, all the nations it says he does, well then he could be resetting time and doing all kinds of messing with history and all this. So that's my new theory. I used to be a dispensationalist, which is a futurist who thinks that Revelations is something that's future, but
mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that
or like a preterist. Isn't that called a preterist?
Yeah, most of that book, preterist. Preterist or preterist,
mm-hmm.
whatever you call it. I'm more of a partial. I'm not a full preterist because chapter 20, 21, 22, we're kind of in that period now, Like we're not waiting for the tribulation. And then that gives me the idea, why is like the world political stage right now, trying to set up like we're getting ready for the rapture, the tribulation, and all this crap. That's if you believe that stuff hasn't happened yet. And it's kind of like they're making us try to think that shit's going on. Like, I don't know. It's really crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy.
Going on.
It is crazy.
Stock market's crashing. Some people think, Trump got the deadly wound, and he's like, and some people think angels are, protecting them and stuff. It's all weird. It's all political stage, and it's like the whole world's being deceived. All the nations are being deceived. We got every nation pretending that they go to space, and they all use the same Star Trek logo, for their logo. So they're all. It's like that's evidence that they're all connected. They're all. Why are all the nations trying to deceive? That space is. We went to the moon, and we live on a spinning ball.
Mm-hmm.
Evolution, Big Bang Theory shit. Seems like all the nations are in on it if they're faking this. They have a rocket program. Like India just went to the moon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now it looked like an Atari game, but people fell for that shit. What's going on? How dumb can people be? I mean, you look at that.
They can be pretty dumb.
The official. Yeah. Well, I've been dumb too, I was dumb. I believed all that shit too.
I hear you.
I don't think we're being bombarded, Disney.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid in the 60s growing up.
Yeah.
I came home and every Saturday I watched cartoons, and then now I watch them and I can see sexual shit in them. And
I know.
Was I watching that shit? Yeah, I was watching that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. I fell for that tree thing for a little while too, and I have an excavator. I live in the Rockies, so I bought some of those wedges, where you split rocks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I have a drill, so I can drill the hole.
Yeah.
And they do split.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Maybe they were something along, like before the original. Well, see, my pastor always taught the gap theory. He taught that gap theory because he said he was a Greek scholar, and he said that word is not was, it's became. It says it's mistranslated in the King James Version to was. It should be translated became. And so I've always thought that. And so
That's interesting. It could be. It could be.
Uh-huh.
It could have been.
How else Satan was a fallen creature in the garden. Well, he taught me the whole theory that man was, one of the purposes of man was to resolve the angelic conflict, which was Satan had been punished. He's punished, go to lake of fire or whatever. And so this man was created to, to resolve the angelic conflict. In other words, Satan's on trial, and man is going to be used as a witness against him in the Supreme Court of Heaven, whatever you want to call it. Okay, well, thanks for I don't want to take up all your time and stuff. Are we on the air? Because I don't know what I sound like on the air. Probably sound like
we are on the air. You can, after you hang up, you can go back and listen to it. You'll hear yourself.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. That's funny. Hail, Ben. Eat more salsa. Who's Jill the Pill? You never had a wrench, Jill the Pill, or is that Daryl's sock account? You did not stand next to it. You saw a pic, which is all you ever use your information. Actually, no. I watched a stream where you were on camera and you had it in your hand and you were showing it on camera. So no, I didn't go off just a pic. I watched the stream. You know you went on stream and put it on camera. Thanks for calling Coffee Talk. You're on with Karen B.
Hi, Karen. This is Lloyd.
Hi, Lloyd. How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing?
I'm great.
Right on. When we're talking about words in the Bible and things like that, the Lord's Prayer, where it says, lead us not into temptation, that negative does not belong there, because your subconscious has no idea what a negative is. It should probably mean, or say, lead us through or from temptation, because otherwise it's basically sabotaging yourself. I think there's a misprint when they translate it to Lord's Prayer.
Well, that's...
Every other prayer is always an affirmative. It avoids negatives.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
That's about all I know right now.
All right. Well, thank you. Is that it?
You're welcome. Bye now.
All right, bye. Yeah, well, they do that a lot in scripture. Well, they'll make a subtle change to a word, and then it kind of changes everything. It changes your whole thought process on how you think about things. And actually, that's why it's really dangerous for a culture to lose its language, because, you know, I'm sure you've all have heard about words that, you know, there's a word in a certain language, but then there isn't a equal word in English or another language, right? Like there's no word for that in English or in another language, because that word is, you know, derived from that culture and that people's way of life and their way of thinking. And so that word fits in with them and their culture and their language, where it doesn't really have a place in another culture or language. That's why it is so important for cultures to maintain their language and everything about their identity, because once you lose your language, that culture is gone. It's gone, you know? That's probably why they want to make everybody speak the English programming language, right? KB, how was the Jeranism VIP yesterday? It was cool. It was cool. I talked to a lot of cool people there. It was cool. It was a good conversation. I got some salsa I didn't notice. Says cilantro salsa. Tastes like enchilada sauce. I want vodka and Red Bull. Oh my god. Populated 10,000 BC, the region where you live. What region is that? Looks like they're going to park Hurricane Debbie over the Carolinas. There's a huge gap between some people's ears, and that's no theory. That's funny. Sounds like Brad Pitt. Clash of the Gods on Prime Video. Great on Greek God story. Really? Clash of the Gods on Prime, huh? I'll have to check that out. I no longer on the ball. When was English first made? I don't know. It's commonly known you were beaten in the residential homes for speaking your native tongue. Actually, here, I'm going to show you guys something. Speaking of, since we had somebody come here who's like, you know, the proponent of the bullshit Tartaria, which, by the way, I know that there's plenty of other channels where you can go to like get confirmation bias on that stuff. So I don't know why you need to come here for that. Okay? I have a different opinion. I do not see things the same way that those people do, and so I'm going to talk about it from my point of view. I'm not here to placate people. I'm not here to jump on board with the bandwagon so I can get more clicks and more views. Like, I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in learning actual things that happen, like reality. And I'm going to look at it from a much more critical point of view. And if you don't like it, well, then just don't come over here. You know, you don't ever come over here unless you want to complain about what I'm talking about. Even if I'm not talking about that, or if I'm talking about something else, all you do is complain that I'm not saying the same things that all these other channels are saying. Like, if you want to go watch a channel that wants to tell you all that stuff and tell you that whatever bullshit you're into, then go watch it over there. You know? Go. I've said this for years. So I can't ever be called a gatekeeper. I just have my own opinion. If you want to go watch somebody who you know, gives you confirmation bias on your preconceived ideas, well, then go to that channel and watch it. I ain't stopping you. But for me here, yeah, I ain't into that garbage. I'm into actual investigation of things. So let's see. I found, now it's noon, and I usually say I'm going to stop early. Remember, I wonder if I should stop. Should I stop or keep going? Because I have here the document that is shown on screen and flashed in the Old World movie, as where it says Tartarian history was to be rewritten. And I have here the whole document in context, what it was actually talking about. Is anybody interested in seeing what it actually says, or do you just care about the screenshot in the end of the movie? To proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria to liquidate serious shortcomings and mistakes of nationalistic... Does anybody care about what it actually says, or do you just care about the part where it says history was rewritten and that is proof of your ridiculous theory? Does the rest of what's written in this document actually matter? Because there's a whole bunch of stuff in here, and it's actually not about what you guys think it's about. It's about something completely different. It's about real history and what was really going on. Does anybody care about it? Do you care to read the whole thing? Or do you just care about this part? Or is the rest of the document valid too? Or is it only this line? English has two sides. The German is very straightforward and there is no trickery. It's fairly close to German itself. Uh-oh, what happened to Isabella? I think someone's pocket modding. I don't understand why we cannot have different opinions and stay friends. We can't all agree on everything. Much love, Flat Gang. Chicago artist, I'm with you. You know, I've disagreed with that person for years on things. I continue to let them have a voice and a wrench on my channel. I never discounted that person, but after a number of years of every single time I try to express my views on the subject, whether I'm being nice or not, I can be doing a totally nice, like earlier, I don't think I was being mean. I didn't even start using any derogatory terms until after that person came here and disrupted the chat and accused me of doing stuff like that when I wasn't, which then upset me, and then I started to use those words, that always happens, and I'm only human, you know, so of course I get upset when people continually do the same thing when all I'm trying to do is talk about things from my point of view, and whether I'm doing it in a palatable way or not, you know, it doesn't matter. Either way, I get name called and attacked for having a different opinion. And I'm just over it. I'm really just done. Like, if you want to go watch people that talk about things the way you like to hear it, go watch that channel. Get out of here and leave me alone and let me do what I want to do. Yeah, it's all about love. But yeah, exactly. No, yeah. Everybody, let's get along and kumbaya and don't say anything bad about anything, and let's just stifle any fucking chance of learning opportunity or any sort of exposure of a false theory. Let's just all keep, you know, blowing sunshine up each other's asses about our ridiculous ideas, and don't say anything mean, because as long as you're a flat earther, then you can make any wild claim that you want to make. And, you know, that's totally fine. We'll just all just ignore it. As long as you say Earth's flat, you can say whatever other ridiculous things you want. That's totally fine. I'm sorry, I'm just not down with that. Kumbaya is the lowest common denominator. Right? Let's just all keep blowing sunshine up each other's asses. Okay, so anyway, Tartar history was to be rewritten. This is the PDF that they show in the beginning of the movie, Old World Order, right? Like it's some sort of evidence. And there's a lot of stuff like this in the movie. I mean, you know, there's a lot of stuff. So here. This is what it is. National Cultural Development under Communism. This is what this PDF is about. It's from June of 1957. Natural Cultural Development under Communism. Basically, I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what this PDF is about. It's basically about the Bolsheviks wiping out the culture of that area, which includes Muslims. And in fact, Muslims were the biggest target of this attack. Okay, so look. Muslims of Russia, Tatars of the Volga and the Crimea, Kyrgyz and Sarts of Siberia and Turkestan, Turks and Tatars of Transcaucasia, Chechens and mountain peoples of the Caucasus, and all you whose mosques and prayer houses have been destroyed, whose beliefs and customs have been trampled upon by the czars and the oppressors of Russia. Henceforth, your beliefs and customs, your national and cultural institutions are forever free and inviolate. Organize your national life in complete freedom. This is your right. Thus read in part a proclamation issued on the 7th of December 1917 by the Bolsheviks over the signatures of Lenin and Stalin, addressed to all Muslim toilers of Russia and the East. The Bolsheviks had realized that if their revolution was to be a complete success, and if they were to be able to consolidate their newly won power, the support of Russia's minority peoples, including the Muslims, was essential. Hence this proclamation. Other pronouncements designed for the same purpose were also issued. For example, a previous declaration, also signed by Lenin and Stalin, issued on the 15th of November 1917, has stated, the Council of People's Commissars had decided to base its activities with regard to the nationalities of Russia on the following principles: equality and sovereignty of the nations of Russia, the right of nations to free self-determination, including the right to secede and form independent states, abolition of all national and national religious privileges and restrictions whatsoever. 4. Freedom of development for the national minorities and ethnographic groups inhabiting the territory of Russia. The Muslim peoples of Russia had, at the time, no way of knowing how little a Bolshevik, i.e., communist, promise meant. The two declarations, therefore, at first kindled great hopes among them. So basically, the Bolsheviks, Stalin, and these Russians were, they started to pretend like they were doing all this good stuff for the Muslims. Oh, we're going to give you religious freedom. You can develop your own territory. You can practice your religion. So basically, that's what it's saying, right? The Bolsheviks have set up. They were trying to. They were setting up a facade of them being a benevolent force. Okay. Colonial subjects of the Tsar, whose lands had been forcibly incorporated into and held as part of the Russian Empire, they fervently desired national independence, and these proclamations seemed an open invitation to them to declare their freedom from Russian rule and to create their own national states. The Tsarist regime therefore appeared as the chief enemy of the Muslims as of the Bolsheviks, so the former were easily persuaded to cooperate with the latter. The disillusionment was rapid. Muslim leaders were at first feasted and feted by the Bolsheviks, but as the power of the latter grew, they soon showed that their promises had only been a tactical maneuver. The newly established independent Muslim governments were ruthlessly suppressed by the Red Army, and the Russian rule reimposed as the Bolsheviks forgot their promise to recognize the right of self-determination. The history of the communists during the 40 years they have been in power in the Soviet Union shows that self-determination has not been the only subject on which they have betrayed both their promises and their alleged doctrine. Throughout their years of power, and especially since World War II and their propaganda to the peoples of Asia and Africa, the communists have boasted of their success in solving the nationalities problem by building a multinational state in which every nationality is equal and has full opportunity for free national cultural development. A brief examination of the record, however, shows that the permitted opportunity for national cultural development was severely limited where it exists at all, and is, in any case without exception, so controlled and warped as to serve not the needs of the aspirations of the various peoples, but only the interests of the Communist Party and the great Russian chauvinism. Let us, for example, consider the position of Islam. In the Muslim regions of Russia, as in Muslim lands where at the time Islam was the hearthstone around which the life of its devotees revolved, or rather did revolve, until the communists violated their promises and made it impossible for Muslims to perform their religious duties. As we have seen, the November 1917 proclamation promised Muslims that they would be free to continue in the practice of their faith even some years before the revolution. In an article entitled "To Rule Poor," Lenin had written, "Everyone must be perfectly free not only to belong to whatever religion he pleases, but he must be free to disseminate his religion and to change his religion. No official should be entitled to ask anyone about his religion. It is a matter for that person's conscience, and no one has any business to interfere." A decree on that separation of the church from state, issued 5th of February 1918, declared in Article 3 that every citizen may profess any religion or none, in Article 5 that free practice of religious rights is guaranteed, and in Article 9 that citizens may teach and study from religion privately. Once the communists had consolidated their power, however, they began to reveal their true nature, to violate their earlier promises, and to take repressive acts. Lands belonging to mosques were confiscated by a decree in 1918. Muslim religious brotherhoods were outlawed during the period of 1921 to 22, and a campaign was launched to ridicule Islam and to undermine the influence of the spiritual leaders of the Muslim peoples. Freedom to teach religion had been defended by Lenin before the revolution and guaranteed by law immediately after the revolution, but soon Article 122 of a new criminal code made it a crime, carrying punishment of 1 year's correctional labor, to teach religion to children and minors, either in public or in private. Lenin, Trotsky, Marx, Engels, et al. Were Jews. Strange, huh? Right? They should be one religion and that's it. All these religions are of jokes. Well, I don't know that one religion is necessarily the answer. All right. In 1921, a direct attack on Islam was begun, which included measures that made active religious life virtually impossible. Thank you for calling Coffee Talk. You're on with Karen B.
Hey, this is Dennis again. Is it permitted to go a second time?
I guess so.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. I got off of directing traffic and I came back to the subject you were interested. You're talking about the Soviet Union, and it was interesting. I just had a comment. You know, it's my opinion, but I've looked at it over some years and decades from different considered different perspectives. But I'd say that politically that's I was going to ask you also who wrote that you were just reading just now. But
well, it's a declassified CIA document. Let me see if it says who wrote it at the end. But this is the document that Hibbler put in his documentary, and he just shows a screenshot of the one page where it says Tartaria history was to be rewritten, or Tartar history was to be rewritten. But it doesn't, he fails to show the rest of the document, and I was reading the rest of the document to show that it doesn't actually have anything to do with the subject matter of the film. It's about the Bolsheviks trying to erase the Muslims in that country.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. I mean, as far as the Tartaria, it sounds like somebody was listing it as evidence to support their very retarded theory, which I dismiss I agree with you. I dismiss it out of hand. But the subject matter, I from what you were reading, I could tell that the CIA, that makes sense because the perspective of it, they're against the communists and they want to influence people the way that was written.
Yeah.
They want to influence people against it, obviously. I just was going to say that against religion generally, I think it's if it had one great fault or error, it was on religion, which it tried to repress generally. But Christianity, Islam, it was an equal opportunity offender. But I think in the West, the standard anti-communist prejudice, it's worse than that. It's the people, they have excessive hatred of it, here and there and all around, in America especially, and it throws the truth out with the baby out with the bathwater. The good parts about the Soviet Union, they just threw it as 100% all bad and evil. I was like, that's wide of the truth. I think it has a lot of good with it, sticking up for the weak and the exploited throughout the entire history of it. But it's prejudice against religion generally was its one weak point. But I would just say it's not as bleak as as places like the CIA or Hitler would paint it. It's generally it's better than that. I won't go into detail, but it sounds like it has nothing to do with the Tartaria or whatever you're saying. The only last thing I say with regard to Stalin, people in the U.S. tend to, even the liberal left, they tend to hate Stalin, all unified. The fact was, he was the one that resurrected and revived the church. And, that's not just one little thing. There's like, on the subject of abortion, for example, there's a law came into being in the 1930s, a Stalinist law, that forbid abortion throughout the Soviet Union and remained in effect as long as he was alive, and only Khrushchev, who's known for his atheism, repealed it in the 1930s. This was just one example of Stalin's revival of Christian faith. And that was before World War II, before German armies invaded. And when I say that, both people that are atheist and religious, I hear crickets. They just hate Stalin. So when I present evidence that's against it, or I should say people that are atheists that are pro-Stalin, when I come up with that, I hear crickets from them. Like, they're not familiar with that. That interferes with their worldview about Stalin. But anyway, from the West generally. Anyway, I don't have as negative a view of Russia, Soviet Russia generally, as the West does. I think this is the main point, that their jaundiced view is accompanied with ignorance generally. It wasn't perfect, but I'm obviously the CIA, thumbs down. Anyway, that's all I got.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
How dare Dennis have his own opinion? You're causing division. How dare you? How dare you not profess that Stalin is evil? Anyway, yeah, I know. Dennis has some different opinions, but I don't necessarily agree with him all the time, or maybe even half the time, but he's welcome to have his opinion. We don't have to freak out. We don't have to get in a fight. All right, so in 1929, a direct attack on Islam was begun, which included measures that made active religious life virtually impossible. Islamic leadership was eliminated by arrest and deportation, if not liquidation, of almost all persons enjoying any religious status. Nearly all village and most city mosques were closed. Religious literature was suppressed through the changing of alphabets, the confiscation of existing religious texts, including the Quran, and the suppression of all publications of a religious nature. And anyone in a responsible position was dismissed if known to be a pious and practicing Muslim. So if you were a Muslim, you got fired from your job. So they just began to totally persecute Muslims. So they started off with this whole precept, they were going to give them all this religious freedom and let them, be free to live their lives as they see fit, which everybody really should be allowed to live their lives as they see fit, as long as they are not causing harm or loss to another people. There's nothing wrong with that. So Muslims were to be free to practice their beliefs and customs. That was the Bolshevik promise. But is not Islam part of those beliefs? It is not the most vital and most deeply cherished part of Muslim life. Yet the communists, in spite of their commitment, have suppressed Islam ruthlessly. Take the matter of mosques, for example. When the communists came into power in 1917, there were 7,000 mosques in European Russia alone, in addition to the unnumbered thousands of Muslim Central Asia, the Caucasus and Transcaucasia, and the Crimea. So in that whole area, which is said to be Tartaria, it was the majority of Muslim people inhabiting it. But in 1942, the communists themselves admitted that there were then only 1,312 mosques in the whole of the Soviet Union. The others had been confiscated and converted into warehouses or stores, or otherwise desecrated or allowed to fall into ruins. Yet in November 1917 proclamation, the Bolsheviks had condemned the Tsars for destroying mosques and prayer houses and called for Muslim support so that such actions could be brought to an end. So they're a bunch of freaking liars. Oh, shocking. Just like today's government. Although a few mosques have been built in the post-war period and a few others repaired, the situation is little better than it was in 1942. The Tashkent, for example, where once 300 mosques graced the city before the communists came to power, there are today only 20. Samarkand, which formerly had over 100, today has only 17, of which only one is permitted to be used. Bokhara, which once boasted of 360, has also only one today. Alma-Ata, a Muslim town for centuries and the capital of the Muslim Republic of Kazakhstan, has not a single mosque, nor are any to be found in such large Muslim centers as Ashgabat or Stalinabad. The same story holds true for the madrasas or religious schools. Before the communist regime, there were at least 8,103 madrasas, which were once the pride of the Bokhara Muslims, which used to train 16,000 mullahs annually, are no more. Today, there is only one, the only one, in fact, in the entire Soviet Union, which has a mere 105 students who follow a 9-year course. Such is the manner in which the communists honor their promise to respect Muslim beliefs and customs. Muslim national and cultural institutions, ! Right? So this is how they honor the Muslims, by tearing down all their mosques and persecuting them and arresting them and basically trying to erase them. The same fate that befell the mosques and madrasas has also been the fate of the Sharia, the holy law of Islam. This too, the communists promise to respect, but we know what a communist promise means. Sorry, Dennis. Dennis, this is very anti-communist, I will say. Speaking to the Dagestani people of Tamir Khan's Shura, now 13th of November 1920, Stalin declared, "We are informed that the Sharia has great importance of the peoples of Dagestan. We are also informed that the enemies of Soviet power are spreading rumors that the Soviet regime would ban the Sharia. I am authorized to declare here on behalf of the government of the RSFSR that these rumors are lies. The government of Russia leaves to every people the full right to administer itself on the basis of its own laws and customs. The Soviet government considers the Sharia as customary law of the same standing as that in force among the other people living in Russia. If it is the desire of the people of Dagestan, their laws and customs shall be preserved." This is a fine, assuring statement, for could there be a clearer and more binding commitment on the part of the communists to respect the Sharia? Unfortunately, it did not mean anything, for it was only another example of the fact that the communists constantly say one thing and then do another. The truth is that Stalin knew he was speaking a lie, knew that the communists had no intention of respecting the Sharia, for only a month earlier, an article published on the 10th of October 1920 issue of Pravda, which was of course the Dagestanis had not seen nor had any way of knowing about, he had declared, "If, for instance, the Dagestani masses, who are profoundly imbued with the religious prejudices, follow the communists on the basis of the Sharia, it is obvious that the direct methods of combating religious prejudices in this country must be replaced by indirect and more cautious methods. In other words, political expediency is required the communists to make promises now and break them later." This is exactly what the communists did. The Soviet government for a long time allowed the Sharia to continue in force. In 1922, it even established Sharia courts in Turkestan, and then later, in 24 and 25, in the course of the agrarian form, had recourse to these courts to obtain favorable declarations from the Muslim divines. But once they had served their purpose, all Sharia courts were abolished, especially after the initiation of the vigorous anti-Islam campaign in 1929. As the January 1950 issue of the Soviet periodical Sovetskoye Gosudarstvo put it, Stalinist precepts, when carried out, quickly led to the elimination of the old-fashioned beliefs in the, it's hard, they typed over this, in the usefulness of the Sharia, and before long, Sharia eliminated itself and was liquidated. Okay, Stalin in 1920 had praised the Sharia as Muslim customary law, but the Soviet Political Dictionary in 1940 describes it as a means for keeping the workers in economic and political subordination by the rich. It legalizes domination, exploitation, and slavery of the workers, the enslavement of women, and states flatly that in USSR now the Sharia is eradicated. Stalin in 1920 praised the Sharia as Muslim customary law, but Kizil, Uzbekistan on the 29th of May in 49 described it as a collection of laws which are among the most ignoble, unjust in the world. Such is the manner in which the communists honor their promises, the way in which they respect Muslim beliefs and customs, Muslims' national and cultural institutions. So again, it's hardly even talking about Tartary or an ancient civilization or advanced civilization or how smart anybody was or anything like that. Nothing. And there's also no mention of any sort of cataclysmic events. The communists have not been content to close mosques and madrasas, suppress the Sharia, and liquidate Muslim religious leaders. They even insult the Islamic faith itself and its holy prophet, God bless and keep him. The communist writer, in setting forth the official party... It almost seems like a Muslim guy wrote this. The communist writer, in setting forth the official party line, described Islam as a primitive and fanatical religion which is a chaotic mixture of Christian, Jewish, and pagan doctrines. And Bagarov, the apostate first secretary of the Azerbaijan Communist Party, in a speech printed in the 14th of July 1950 issue of Bobinsky Rabachi, called the Prophet Muhammad, may God bless and keep him, a representative of the feudal mercantile aristocracy of Mecca who utilized Islam for the unification of the Arab tribes and for the maintenance of their own power. Yet despite these blasphemies against Islam and Muhammad, may God bless and keep him, the communists are today trying to persuade the Muslim peoples of Africa, Asia, and the Middle East that they have no better friends than the communists. The Holy Quran makes incumbent upon every true believer the faithful observance of the 5 pillars of Islam: profession of the faith, prayer, almsgiving, fasting, and pilgrimage. These all formed an integral part of the beliefs of customs of the Muslim peoples of Russia, which the communists promised to respect. But today, the pillars are proscribed in the Soviet Union. Only the profession of the faith can be made without hindrance, but even this must be done in secret unless the pious Muslim wishes to run the risk of being subjected to pressure, economic or otherwise, in the part of the authorities. Prayer, too, is impossible for the same reason. In any case, the Muslim worker is not permitted to leave his work to recite his prayers at the appointed times, and the communal Friday prayer is precluded by the absence of mosques and by the fact that the Kremlin has decreed that Muslims must observe Sunday rather than the traditional Muslim Friday as the weekly day of rest. The younger generation, having been deprived of religious instruction, is further handicapped by its ignorance of the prayers. So they were just trying to wipe out the Muslim culture. Fasting during the holy month of Ramadan is almost impossible. A Muslim worker, if he should decide to defy the communist ban on fasting, is nevertheless forced to do a full day's work, and the penalty for failure to perform the something work, can't read it, norm is severe. Consequently, fasting has been made virtually physically impossible. Moreover, as a means of enforcing the ban, Muslims are frequently subjected to tests during Ramadan. For example, they may be called in for conference by their superiors and they're offered a drink or a cigarette. Refusal to accept is tantamount to admission of fasting and may well lead to a dismissal, if not to a more severe punishment. So they would purposely bring them in during the times when they're supposed to be fasting and then make them drink and eat and offer them stuff so that they broke their fast. That's messed up, man. Almsgiving or zakat is rigorously prohibited by law. The criminal codes of the Uzbek, Tajik, and Turkmen republics, as well as that of the RSFSR, which is also enforced in the Kyrgyz and Kazakh republics, provide criminal penalties for the collection of such religious tithes. The 5th pillar, the Hajj, or the pilgrimage, which is where they go to the Kaaba and they go to Mecca, the big black cube, was banned by the communists from the early days of their regime. As a result of wartime concessions, the ban was lifted in 1944, only to be, reimposed in 1947. While the ban was again lifted after Stalin's death, this was more in theory than in practice, for only Soviet Muslims had made the trip to Mecca, have been faithful communists whose purpose in making the Hajj is not primarily to fulfill any religious duty, but to propagandize. The ordinary Soviet Muslim is still prevented from making the pilgrimage. Such is the manner in which the communists have respected Muslims' beliefs and customs, Muslim national culture and institutions. Right? Yes, this is how they respected them, by telling them they couldn't do it and sabotaging them. Let us turn now to consideration of some of other aspects of Muslim life and culture in the Soviet Union. The 7th All-Russian Conference of the Russian Social Democrat Labor Party, the former name of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, in April 1917, adopted a resolution which read, in part, the party demands wide regional autonomy, the abolition of a compulsory state language. This was part of the Bolshevik campaign to win the support of Russia's minority peoples. A people's language is without doubt the most treasured part of its culture. That's exactly right. And a people will fight as hard, if not harder, to preserve that heritage as to win political independence. The Bolsheviks knew this. Stalin, in fact, in his Marxism and the National Question had written, a minority is discontented not because there is no national union, but because it does not enjoy the right to use its native language. Permit it to use its native language and the discontent will pass of itself. Once Bolsheviks had consolidated their power, however, this liberal view of language in question began to change, and the great Russian chauvinism once again began to emerge. Lenin saw the danger, and in a letter written on the 31st of December, 1922, not meant for general publication, warned that it is necessary to set the strictest rules concerning the use of native languages in the national republics which enter the Union, and to abide by those rules with the special carefulness. There is no doubt that under the pretext of unity of the railroad service, under the pretext of fiscal unity and so forth, with our present apparatus, a mass of abuses of genuinely Russian character will take place. After Lenin's death, the trend he had foreseen gathered more and more strength as the Soviet leaders forgot their early promise not to accord special rights to any single language. The climax came on the 13th of March 1938, when the Kremlin issued a decree which made the teaching of Russian henceforth obligatory in all national minority schools. Hey, Annie D, thank you for the tip. Crystals rock. Yes, they do. Does the document mention giants? No, it doesn't mention giants. It doesn't mention anything about anything that has to do with any of the Tartaria narrative, the modern Tartaria narrative that has just surfaced in the last few years. No, doesn't even talk about that. It just talks about, I can keep reading, but it just talks about how they went to all these great lengths to stop the Muslims from practicing their religion, from speaking their language, from teaching it to their children, from being who they were. They were trying to force the Muslim population to assimilate into the Russian paradigm or whatever it is. So not only have the communists violated their promise to not institute a compulsory state language, but they have also been making a determined effort to Russianize the various minority languages. Communist writers and grammarians are trying slowly to change the structure of the minority languages to make them conform as much as possible with the Russian model. So violence has also been done to the minority languages in another manner. The Muslim peoples of Central Asia and the Caucasus at the time of the 1917 revolution had long used the Arabic script for their languages. As part of their campaign against Islam in order to weaken the ties between Russia's Muslims and the Muslims of other lands, the Kremlin in the 1920s decreed that henceforth all minority languages should be written in Latin alphabets. Then, a decade later, a new change was ordered and Cyrillic scripts were replaced the recently adopted Latin ones. In neither case were the wishes of the minority peoples taken into consideration. The communists in Moscow simply decided that these far-reaching changes should be made and then forced upon the people. So this is the document that is presented in the Old World Order movie as I don't know if it's supposed to be evidence, because they don't show you the rest of the document. This is what I'm saying. This is why I wanted to read the rest of the document so you can see it has nothing to do with what they're talking about in that movie. Like literally nothing. So I'm just going to skip right here to the history paragraph, okay? Such is the manner of cultural institutions. Or let us take the matter of history, which along with religion, language, and literature constitute the core of a people's cultural heritage. Here again, the communists have interfered in a shameless manner. For example, on the 9th of August of 1944, the Central Committee of the Communist Party sitting in Moscow issued a directive ordering the party's Tartar Provincial Committee to proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria, to liquidate serious shortcomings and mistakes of the nationalistic character committed by individual writers and historians in dealing with the Tartar history. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten, let us be frank, was to be falsified in order to eliminate references to the Great Russian aggressions and to hide the facts of the real course of Tartar-Russian relations, and this was no isolated case. In every Muslim area with the USSR, historians and orders of the Communist Party have rewritten history to distort the facts so that the Russians appear always in a good light. Needless to say, histories which present the facts truthfully have been withdrawn and destroyed so that the present and future generations of Muslims forever denied the chance of learning the true facts of their nation's past. So it was actually a Muslim history that got destroyed, not like some one world benevolent empire. At least according to this document, which is presented in that movie as evidence of the other. So, there you go. Yeah. I don't want to bore you with reading the rest of it. I could, but it basically is just more detail about all of that. I have read the entire thing. If anybody wants this document, I can upload it somewhere. I can upload it into Telegram if you guys want to read it. But, I mean, it's got nothing to do with that fake history story that everybody likes to push. Oh, here comes somebody. If it's approved for release by the CIA, it's worthless disinfo, in my opinion. Okay, well then why are they using it as proof of something else? If it's disinfo, then it's not good for anything, is it? I like communists. I think I might be one. That's funny. That is the known truth that no one has in rocked up phrase like this. If you obey a rule or law which you know is wrong, your own benefit, you do not avoid damnation, your soul's forfeit. I don't really understand that. Oh, you're a liar. Oh, goof. Okay. Was Russia originally Muslim? Well, there was okay. In that area that is referred to as Tartaria, apparently that was a Muslim population. That area between Russia and China, that's sort of like, I guess, I honestly don't know. I mean, world history is a big mystery. History is a mystery, you know, and I'm all for investigating it and looking for clues and stuff. I'm just not for people making up completely making up their own story, which doesn't really match in reality, that's wrong too. That's just as wrong as the people who lied to us initially about history. You know, it's just as wrong. It's, you know, I don't know what else to say about that. And if you don't get that, well, then I don't know how to help you. Thank you for calling Coffee Talk. You're on with Karen B.
Morning, Karen.
Hello.
So the Russia originally started out as Varangian guards. So they were Rus Vikings, and they were hired by Constantinople to be their bodyguards, and to be bodyguards. And after their release from service, they took over the land of Russia. So obviously the Constantinople and all that area was all Muslims. So that entire area was technically Muslim originally, and then that land in particular was given to the Rus Vikings in payment for their service as being Varangian guards.
What is it? Varangian?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was a mixed area since then.
Yeah.
And then I actually dated an Armenian girl, and if you look, there's been back and forth quite a few ethnic cleansings on like a lot of the Eastern Bloc areas. Like she's Armenian, and there's been the Muslim-Christian wars in those areas. We just don't really talk about it that much, but it's been a real hot thing for them. And in fact, when they do wars, they're much nastier about it. Like I don't know if anybody remembers, but back then, so one of the things for these Muslims, the ones that believe that they're going to get into their version of heaven or whatever, and they're going to have 99 virgins. Well, if they get their dick cut off in life, then they also have no dick in the afterlife. So that was supposedly one of the ways the Russians would torture them and things like that. It was really wild.
Dude, people are so fucked up. People just do fucked up shit.
Yeah. But yeah, this was a mixed area to begin with, and that's why. That's the backstory on that.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Thank you for calling. Thanks for that.
You bet. Love you, Karen.
All right, love you too.
Talk to you later.
Bye. Yeah. I've only watched the movie once. 16 Alpha V. I have watched that movie 6 times. 6 times. As people practice and learn how to better manipulate AI-generated art, I imagine more and more so-called ancient legends and mysteries will be suddenly available as video evidence. Yes, 16 Alpha V. Actually, there's been a lot of fake Bigfoot photos being circulated around. The people are trying to pass them off as old Bigfoot photos. It'll be like a Bigfoot standing next to a man. Those are all fake, dude. Those are all fake. And yeah, I mean, that's why when I saw this AI, I said the same thing. I'm like, great, it's just gonna get even worse. And if you watch that movie, there's they use AI pictures in there to illustrate some of their ideas and sort of make you think it's plausible. And it's really silly. Beheadings aren't funny. I know, Billingtano. Wait, why was I laughing? Did I laugh about beheadings, or was I laughing because Russians are amazing? Oh, cool. Varangian Guard. Oh, okay, thank you. I was wondering how that was spelled. Was an elite unit of the Byzantine army from the 10th to the 14th century who served as personal bodyguards to the Byzantine emperors. Varangian Guard is known for being primarily composed of recruits from Northern Europe, including mainly Norsemen from Scandinavia, but also Anglo-Saxons from England. The recruitment of distant foreigners from outside Byzantium to serve as emperor's personal guard was pursued as a deliberate policy, as they lacked political loyalties and it could be counted upon to suppress revolts by disloyal Byzantine factions. That makes sense. The Varangian Guard not only provided security for Byzantine emperors, but also participated in many wars, often playing a decisive role, which they were usually deployed at critical moments of battle. By the 13th century. Interesting. Viking expeditions. Ooh. Yeah. That's interesting, man. Time to get out into the garden. All right then, Nathan, you have a wonderful day. Yeah. Alrighty. So it's 1 o'clock. I guess I should wrap it up. I gotta go do some chores. I got grass to mow and lots of work to do. Charismatic giants were real. Hey man, I ain't against giants. I just did a whole thing where I was looking at a bunch of giant articles about... I didn't even get through them all, you guys. I didn't even get through them all. Maybe I'll make a... Would you guys be interested in like a whole separate video where it talks about all these giant articles? Because look at them. I didn't even make it through them all. I think I only opened like 5 of these, you guys. And there's a whole bunch more. Skeleton of giant Indian found. 7 feet 4 inches was the height of a member of extinct race whose bones were dug up by California scientists. And like I said, man, I was surprised how much of these were one-off stories. They weren't repeats. Giant skeleton found upon Arizona ranch in Prescott, Arizona. See, like, so these are all different stories. They're just different accounts of giant bones being found. I find that very interesting. So anyway, maybe I'll do something like that. Emperor Constantine is your ancestor. Some folks would be better off with a sci-fi fantasy book club rather than their investigation. Yo, I hear you. That would be great. Okay, maybe I will do that. Maybe I will work on a video that is all the Giants articles, so it's not like interrupted by butthurt tree people. Hey, Thunder Chicken. All right, guys. Yeah, thank you for joining for another episode of Coffee Talk. I'm gonna get going. I'll let you guys get about your day. Yeah, I'll do a giant video because look at all of these. I can't even get through them all. So what I'll do it separately so that you guys can watch it later. All right, you guys. All right, have a wonderful day. Take it easy. Don't get too stressed out. Don't worry about it. And it's okay if I don't agree with your ideas. You don't need validation from me. Just tell me to fuck off. If it makes you feel better. All right? All right, you guys. Peace. And for those who wish to send me stuff through snail mail, you can send it to P.O. Box 10, Earl, North Carolina, 28038. There are also links below for Flat Earth merch, and you can send me donations. And I do appreciate all the support. Sincerely, thank you very much. Also, please go to flatearthfestivals.com for all information about upcoming Flatoberfest and Flat Earth-friendly local meetups. If you are organizing a local Flat Earth meetup, email me at flatearthfestivals@protonmail.com with your meetup information to have it listed on the website for free. For everything else, you can email me at karenbfe@protonmail.com. Thank you for being here.